Both Buffalo sports teams have had themselves a busy day. We'll start with the Sabres as the NHL trade deadline has passed, though teams, of course, can still have moves fall through the cracks as we go throughout the afternoon. But the deadline was at 3, and at the deadline, so far the Sabres have made 3 acquisitions thus far. Defensemen Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn from Winnipeg for a second in 27, a fourth in 26. Isak Rosen and Jacob Bryson going the other way. And then forward Sam Carrick comes over from the Rangers for a third and a sixth in 2026. Paul Hamilton is going to join the show coming up next as we get the latest on the Sabres trade deadline, and do stay tuned as well. General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen expected to meet with the media at 4 p.m. or really throughout this afternoon. We will keep you posted on that, and when he does speak with the media, we'll have that for you right here on WGR. Some other notable moves. The Islanders are acquiring blue center Braden Schenn for a first and a third and a prospect. The exact years and prospect have not yet been reported. The Ducks get defenseman John Carlson from Washington for a conditional first in 26 and a third in 27. And Tampa gets forward Corey Perry back. They send a second in 28 to L.A. to get that deal over the line. Now to the Bills. It's a day of cuts. Cornerback Taron Johnson out after 8 seasons with Buffalo. Johnson was a second-team All-Pro with the Bills in 2023, and then wide receiver Curtis Samuel is being released after 2 seasons with the team. Johnson expected to clear around $1.9 million in cap, while Samuel will clear about $6 million in cap. Do stay tuned. Sal Capaccio will join the show at 5:30 for the latest on the Bills. And then the Lions are expected to release left tackle Taylor Decker, which Decker did request after contract talks broke down between the team and player. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
My dad's not here right now. He's still at work. So I'm going to blast him.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I'm going to see if there's a clean version so that my parents and the people at my school will not get mad at me. We've got the spritzer filled with water just in case if stuff gets too fire. I'm going to set up the speaker and I'm going to listen to
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I think this is the best
Mike Schopp
feature that I've heard in a long time. I think his flow is really good in it, and I like his aggressiveness on it, and
the Bulldog.
Put not enough effort in it. I think overall his flow was good, but I don't like that mumble rapping. That was my review of
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Didn't need a spritzer. Wasn't fire enough. No spritzer for you. No spritzer.
That's definitely not a young Owen Parker. He does, the first thing you hear there is, my dad's not here right now. Of course, that plays, I think, pretty much every Friday, and usually his dad is here. Owen is still young, by the way. He's not no longer a young Owen Parker. But, just throwing that out there as a theory, a possibility. Happy Friday. Welcome. We got a lot with the deadline and Bills moves and the possibility or the likelihood of more next week when we get into actual free agency. Legal tampering, illegal tampering is right now. I hate the term legal tampering. We're just trying way too hard here, but that's what they call it. So that's coming, but I don't want to say we won't talk about the Bills because, of course, we will. For the most part, football can wait. The Sabres have made the trade deadline a thing that we don't have to hide from. How about that? And by the way, Bulldog is not here. Usually this is his day because I take a trip almost every year this weekend to Philadelphia for baseball drafts, and this year it's next week. So I get the deadline. And I did great because usually I think a lot of us dread this day. It's either who you're selling or just who you're not getting. And even when the Sabres have been good, I don't have to be old to remember that at all, like Owen wouldn't, right? But even in years where the Sabres have been good, buyers has not usually come naturally to them. Even this week they had a player turn them down. So it's always been like, it only gets to like right here. And I wonder if this year isn't different, even though there have been acquisitions that we'll talk about right now with Paul Hamilton joining me on the West Her hotline. 3 players added here since yesterday, Paul. Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn from Winnipeg, Sam Carrick from the Rangers. Just to ask, do you know that this is all of it, or could there still be more?
There still could be more because, remember, the NHL is still in the 1980s. So to make a trade, you have to strap it to the back of a pigeon and send it to New York City. So 5 o'clock, they're still doing trades and things like that. So I don't know how in 2026 they're still this far behind the times. But, yeah, I've sat here waiting for the GM till 5:30 because all the trades weren't in and all that. So we hope to have Jarmo Kekalainen by 4, but this is the National Hockey League, so who knows?
There will sometimes be announcements from reporters or even from teams like, we're done. So we can look for that here in the next little while, I guess, since it is past 3 o'clock.
That used to be a thing here in Buffalo, but things have changed here. Those folks aren't around anymore, so that usually does not happen anymore.
So, Paul, what do you think of the 3 players? I mean, want to start with Winnipeg. I think that happened first. What happens to the lineup with the additions of Logan Stanley, 6'7", 230, and Luke Schenn?
Well, Jarmo Kekalainen started by trying to make a big splash. He tried with 2 different St. Louis Blues. It didn't happen for a couple of different reasons. So then he decided it's time to the depth. And I knew all along that he didn't think this team was tough enough. So it doesn't surprise me at all. He went in this direction to get a 6'7", 230-pound defenseman who hits and causes havoc. This year has been a pretty decent offensive defenseman. He's never had more than a goal in a season.
This year is 9.
Yeah. So, the problem with him is how the Sabres have worked very, very, very hard at cleaning up their own end and cleaning up their turnovers. They used to be a turnover machine, and now the turnovers are fewer and far between, which really helps the goaltending because they're not facing 3-on-1s all night. In a couple of cases, 3-on-0s. And, so Stanley, unfortunately, for Sabre fans, it does turn the puck over more than you'd like. But there are things to like about his game. He does make a good first pass. Not the best in his own end. So just a depth type of a guy. He's a guy that would be on the third pair. And by the time you're in a 1-1 game in the third period, you're probably not going to see him again. Or you might see him once in the period, or just kind of the way they've been doing it with Bryson and Metza and Kesselring. Kesselring plays a little bit more than the other 2. So that's really not a big change.
Mm-hmm.
Schenn definitely is I think he's your new number 7 guy. Bryson is now gone, and I'm thinking Metza goes back to being the captain of the Rochester Americans. Anybody that they want to be eligible for the AHL playoffs had to be sent down today by the trade deadline. And they can come back, but they had to be sent down to be on the roster, the clear day roster. So I'm sure Metza probably is down there. I don't know about Ostlund. So they would have to do that. But, it's a good guy to have in your number 7 slot because he still can play. He's not what he used to be. I mean, he's to an age now, he's not what he used to be, but he still can play and play pretty well. And he brings 2 Stanley Cup championships to the locker room. He's a 2-time champ with the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is important, especially for a team whose best players are named Dahlin and Thompson, who have not won Stanley Cups. Now, Thompson has won gold medals for Team USA on 2 different occasions. Dahlin basically keeps saying he hasn't won anything. Another guy who hasn't won anything, Josh Norris, said last night on the postgame show, quote, "This is the most fun I have ever had playing hockey." So there's that one for you.
I can believe it. I mean,
yeah.
What's not to enjoy right now about all of this?
Exactly.
They're just zipping through teams.
Yeah, that's what you get. And, they get a guy who is a career 52% face-off man in Carrick. I'm a fan of Josh Dunn. I think he does a lot of good things for the Sabres, but I think Carrick is better. He's an NHL veteran. He, again, is a guy that if you mess with his teammates, he will arrive on the scene rather quickly. And he he can win you that odd face-off that you might need that drives Lindy Ruff insane, that he really doesn't have guys to win key draws for him.
With Paul Hamilton, so what do you think, all that said, the immediate changes to the lineup might be? You mentioned Metza maybe being squeezed out. Bryson is gone to Winnipeg. Roseanne is also gone to Winnipeg but wasn't here, and I want to get to that in a minute. But Carrick goes in like tomorrow. The other guys go in, or one of them does when they get here, which reportedly might not be until next week.
Yeah, you got that visa problem, and with coming from Winnipeg, where Carrick is on his way. Lindy Ruff said he's a good possibility for tomorrow, so we may see him tomorrow. The other two, yeah, whenever the visas and all that kind of stuff that have to take place that I get very confused about, whenever that's all done, then they'll be able to join the Sabres.
And you think Carrick plays and maybe Stanley plays when he arrives? And maybe Shen, but maybe not.
I think Kozak and Dunn become the two extra forwards, and Shen, I think, becomes the extra defenseman, and the other two play.
How about the departures here, Paul? I guess really we can cover the draft picks, but what's there to say? I mean, this is going to be a year where you're going to sell your draft picks, and they did not, to my knowledge at least, or at least not to this point, give up a first.
No, they did not give up a first. Rosianna, he needs a change of scenery. I mean, he's done okay this year when he's been up, but I'm still not thoroughly impressed, and I'm still not of the mind that he is going to be a decent NHL player, maybe at some point. But, so definitely he needed a change of scenery. I don't think there's any thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a former number one pick. That was the number one pick they got in the Ristolainen trade. You look at that draft, you can say, yeah, Roseanne's a bust, and I think he may be. But look at all the players around him. I mean, nobody really made the league. It was a horrible draft. So it's not, you can say, yeah, it's a mistake, but I say to myself, yeah, there's only one or two guys that maybe you could have taken that were below him that would have been better. So,
Paul was kind of an obvious candidate for a move. I mean, not just for his sake, but there's only so many spots here. Before the Sabres got good, we were, going back a couple of years and thinking about Kulik too. Like, not everybody can play in the top six. And do I have guys that are cut out for a role in the bottom six, or do they need to be in the top six to be worth it? Then you're talking about money too. And this player, there just wasn't room.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't get real carried away when Mertka. I think Mertka's he looks to me like he's going to be a very good right-handed shooting big defenseman. But if he would have gotten traded, they like Kleber almost as much, who was the second-round pick the year before, playing at Minnesota Duluth. The year before that, the second-round pick is Sturbeck, who is a right-handed shot. He's not quite as big as Kleber, but a lot of folks think Kleber is as good or better than Mertka. And the thing is, probably all three aren't going to make the Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres have other guys here too. So, yeah, all right, if you had to trade Mertka for something, I don't think it's that big a deal because you have other folks in the pipeline that are also good. I mean, the cupboards are not bare around here. So even when you trade a guy like Savoy, or let's say you did trade Mertka, you still have other guys coming that some feel are maybe even better.
Do you think it's interesting what Winnipeg wanted from the Sabres? So Roseanne makes sense, I think. We're just talking about him. Does Bryson work if you're trying to advertise? Winnipeg has its press conference, and we think Bryson can be what in the future? And then, of course, the picks are the picks.
Yeah, I mean, Bryson, I think he fit his role in Buffalo very well, which was the number 7 guy. And then Metza showed up, so maybe Metza was number 7 and Bryson was number 8, whatever. They're the two depth defensemen, and I thought both performed well. I honestly feel Bryson was having his best year. He's a good puck mover. He plays his angles really well defensively, and Metza has been excellent. I mean, his numbers are crazy. But you're bringing Shen in, so the Sabres might have just said, look at, they probably would have wound up Winnipeg could have gotten him for free if they wanted to, because they probably would have wound up waiving Bryson. So I don't know exactly how that worked, but I see him as a number 7 defenseman in the NHL and nothing more.
Nothing since the moves from earlier with the 2 players from the Jets and the 1 from the Rangers to the Sabres. And I say that because, as we talked about earlier, there still can be and are trades that are getting out around the league, even though it's after 3. Paul Hamilton, I got to know where you are. You're not on the Zamboni, I'm pretty sure. You wouldn't be doing this.
No, I'm actually in the front atrium, because they have a bigger media room that we only use for occasions like this that are off the atrium. So I walked out with our equipment so I could talk to you live. Didn't want to bother the writers inside the room. So
good. Nice.
And yeah, I think if Kekalainen were to start early, it would be on social media where we could just join it in progress.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can. I'm planning on being able to hear that, share that.
I do see some Sabres folks starting to file into the room right now.
Okay, Paul, 26-5-2 since this all started. That's insane. Numerous best team in the NHL comments last night on ESPN since that started, and now they're tied for first. What is there?
By the way, they have just sent out a notice Kekalainen is starting shortly, so we should probably cut this short.
Do you have a quick thought on just sort of how insane all this is? Because we've asked you that before, I know, but after last night,
that the Sabres are in this position?
Yes,
yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and the players are just giddy about it because all they've been doing is selling and selling and selling every year. Now they're bringing guys in, and they just love it.
So a sign that they probably are done. Once we get Jarmo Kekalainen in the room, there's not going to be anything else.
They're definitely done if we just got this thing from the Sabres.
All right, I'll let you go.
So
Thanks.
I'm going to get going.
Yep, good. Paul Hamilton on the Western Hotline. He'll set up so we can hear Kekalainen here shortly. And maybe I should break now. We'll figure out what to do with Sammy P. NHL trade deadline day. The Sabres GM coming up live shortly here on WGR.
that space that you're trying to shrink come playoff time, it just adds. And Logan Stanley's confidence and Luke Schenn's experience, I think, are real strong additions for the Buffalo Sabres. And the Buffalo Sabres are rocking and rolling right now. And there's no way we wouldn't have said this in November that they're a Stanley Cup contender. They're a Stanley Cup contender. At the high end, no. But they have to be taken seriously because that's a good team, and they're on a roll, and they've just strengthened their team.
That is Craig Button. Sabres GM Jarmo Kekalainen, they're saying, is going to go at 3:30, and we'll carry it, so that's in 7 minutes. I talked to Sam Panayotovich, and he's like, this is my spot. What do you mean? What's hockey? No, he didn't say any of that. He's like, fine, I'll move. So we'll talk to Sam next hour at some point. Sal today in the 5 o'clock hour. There's Bills stuff as well. Next week's a big week for the Bills. We have the DJ Moore trade still fresh from yesterday. And then EJ Radick coming up at 6 from NHL Network. It has been, I'm going to say this to him, I don't know if he has any memory of me or us, but it has been so long since I have talked to EJ Radick. And I say that in a certain way because I used to do it all the time. Like when I worked at ESPN, so did he. And he and Pierre LeBrun, what was Pierre's website? He wasn't where he is now, but he had a smaller website that he was with, and they would be like our hockey guys. And I usually worked, middle of the night. So we talked to EJ, 11 at night or something, or Pierre. That's just a lifetime ago. But I was excited when NHL Network reached out. Craig Button there, a lot of I'm not sure this will be true of EJ or necessarily anyone else, but a lot of the national guys like every player. They just like everything. Whatever you do, this is the new world that we're in with the Sabres, where they add, which is what you're supposed to do when you're where they are in the standings. Like, oh, that's good. What if somebody gets hurt? Depth, face-offs was welcome to the show. Face-offs, not usually welcome on this show, but now we've got a guy who wins barely more than half his face-offs, which I guess is important. So there are these niche roles that a team tied for first with 20 games to go, everybody thinks should be looking to fill. And I think that's what they've done. And I have no evidence that they're doing anything else. I mean, if the press conference is starting in 5 minutes, pretty sure this is going to be it. Wouldn't it be something, though, if he announced something else instead of it just coming from Twitter like usual? But I don't know if these guys really help the Sabres, any of them. Maybe Carrick is the one who I would say, I guess, makes the most sense. Bottom six forward, reliable, experienced, that kind of stuff. It's still niche. It's all niche. I don't know about the defensemen, really. Sort of thinking about Bulldog here when we were in a tizzy over Parayko the other day before he decided not to come. And just unfortunately, he's not here to speak on this himself, but would Parayko have compromised what the Sabres do best? Move the puck from the back. They're big and long, if not super physical, and they just are very tough to penetrate. And Parayko is big too. He's not the puck mover at all that the other guys the Sabres have, happen to be. And this isn't him. This is not somebody on that level even of quality, I think. So you're getting a lot of size in Logan Stanley. 6'7", 230 is serious. That's like Parayko. And then Schenn, who's also big, but the way Paul described it, he thinks he would come in under Stanley. Like he's the number 7, and maybe this means that Stanley is number 6 with Bryson moving, and then Metza going to Rochester, Paul predicts. So that's, I think, what it is. And does it make any difference? Does it improve them? I guess we don't know yet. I mean, that's certainly the idea. They gave up 4 draft picks and 2 players, one of whom is promising. I mean, if not both, but Roseanne is somebody that other teams are going to like, if not love. So you've moved on from him. Paul and I talked about that, and I think it makes sense that would happen. Again, you give up players like that when you do this, and that's the position the Sabres are in. I think and again, Kekalainen in just a couple of minutes here. Once we get the thumbs up, we'll go right to it. I'll even stop talking. That's how important it is. I'll even stop talking. The appearances here, I think, are really good. I guess there are going to be some people who think, why didn't you get Steven Stamkos or something? Or even, like, Justin Falk is one of the bigger names that was traded today to Detroit. That's relevant to us, from St. Louis to Detroit. But a lot of these guys, people say, are not that good. That's kind of Travis. All right, I'll stop talking. Here we go.
What was it like for you? Was there frustration because maybe some things happened that were beyond your control, or what was the whole experience like for you?
Pretty typical trade deadline. We tried to get things done before we get close to the deadline, so that you're not scrambling in the last second. And I think we accomplished most what we wanted to accomplish yesterday, and so today was a fairly quiet day, and we're happy.
What was the goal for this team and for your vision of this team at the trade deadline to improve this team or certain facets of the team to help it in the playoff chase?
We have a lot of faith in this group, the way they've been playing, the way they're competing, the way they're having fun. So we wanted to reward the group as well to show them that we have that faith and we want to help them and bring in some players in different areas that we needed. And I think we addressed those needs and we're a stronger team because of it.
What was paramount? What was the most important thing to do?
Depth is one important thing. The schedule's very dense right now because of the Olympics. We're playing every other day. And the deeper you get into the spring, you know the schedule there. It's every other day. You need depth. Players are going to get banged up. And it's very, very important in my mind to have depth both, especially on D side. That's probably the most crucial position to have depth in, but also on the forward side. And face-offs is an area where we haven't been very good. I think we're on 44%, 45% as a team. We added Sam Carrick, who's a very good face-off man. He's a right-handed shot and can take D-zone face-offs, crucial face-offs, penalty-killing face-offs. And, the one thing that I've noticed that we've had some success is that teams try to test us a little bit. They've been trying to push us around, and I think we added some elements that's not going to happen so easily anymore.
What do you like about the two defensemen that you got?
Size. I'm a big believer that the further you get into the spring, you need that size that protects the front of the net. And Luke Schenn has a Stanley Cup, and he knows what it takes to go through the grind. The further into the spring and summer you can get. Logan Stanley, obviously a huge man, 6'7". And, the length, the size, ability to clear the front of the net. I think the further you get into the springtime here, and we're in a battle here now to make it to the postseason. So I think that's really important. We can tighten up the defensive game by being real strong in front of our own net. So I think those are the biggest elements that they bring. We have a lot of skill on our defense, mobility, ability to join the rush, offensive-minded defensemen. So I think we can really use the defensive side of things with big two trees that we got in these trades.
How much did the end of the Tampa game last week, your team responded, but how much did that kind of raise a red flag? You got 2 more meetings with them and you're headed toward the playoffs.
I think that that's been on our mind a lot. I guess that was one of the games where it got tested a little bit, and that's to be expected. We've had a lot of success lately, and teams are trying to win any way they can. So you got to respect that and respond, and our guys compete. I think that's the thing that I give this group and coaching staff a lot of credit for, is that I think everybody knows we have a lot of skill, but our guys compete. And they've shown a lot of character throughout the season, and that's part of the growth process too. And I think that's been the greatest part of the success here in the last few months that I've seen, is that we've really shown a lot of character.
How sensitive were you of not disrupting the chemistry? This is a group that's been playing fantastic hockey for a while now, and you want to improve the roster. but maybe also juggling the idea of not something too seismic that would disrupt what has been going so well?
I think that ties up with the faith that we have in the group. We don't want to disrupt something that's going really well. The chemistry, they have fun together, they believe in each other, they trust each other, and you can see that they're just having the time of their lives. And I've seen some comments from the players, and they're confirming it. And I see them in the locker room and in the cafeteria every day. Winning is fun. But they've also put the work in, and I think they're all realizing that it's paying off. So it's been fun for us too.
What stood out about specifically maybe these last 5 games after the break? You last a couple before the break, 3-week layoff. I mean, you kind of not sure what might transpire, but I mean, you guys haven't missed a beat. Just what stood out about these this last week or so here?
I think I'd stretch it even further. I think that's been one good thing, that if we've had a little bit of a tough game or maybe a couple, we bounce back every time, and that's a testament to the character of the group as well, and consistency. That's the big part of success, and we've had that now. If we've had a little setback, we bounce right back and get on another roll, and it's a quality that all the good teams have.
Jarmo, you're obviously familiar with this organization prior to coming here, and watching the Vegas game the other night, so many of the players and Lindy talked about the playoff atmosphere and the fans wanting to get back and seeing that again. Just from your perspective, what was it like to experience that, and how important is that going to be to have that moving forward as you guys go out this season?
I get goosebumps when you describe that, because I got goosebumps that night. It was an electric, unbelievable atmosphere here, and that just goes to show you what a passionate hockey market this is. I've said that many times, and right from the start when I got here, I can see how much passion the people in Buffalo have for hockey, and to me that's great. My life evolves around hockey 24/7, and I live and breathe it. But to see the people, how much knowledge they have of the game and how much they love the game, and I think they've always appreciated our skill, because we have a lot of it. But I think they've really come to respect the work and the compete that we put in now, and it's a blue-collar town, so I think it's something that you have to do to earn their respect, and I think our group's doing it, and it's great to see. But the atmosphere at that game was just unbelievable, and again, when I'm thinking about it, I get goosebumps. But it's fun to see, and I hope it continues.
Things got very public surrounding Robert Thomas, surrounding Colton Parayko, especially the Parayko situation. Like, how difficult was that to navigate? How disappointed are you that it got that public? And how close did you come to actually convincing him to come?
Well, you haven't dealt with me very long, but I've gotten a lot of questions over the years and over the last week or so on different rumors, and I never comment on them. I don't comment on any unfinished business. There's a lot of talk around, every time that somebody calls me, 31 other GMs, when they call me, they mention names. Sometimes that name comes out in public as a rumor, even if I had no intention of trading that player, it somehow gets into the rumor. So I'm going to keep my way of not talking about any speculations and possible trades, and we're going to just concentrate on what we have here. But Buffalo's a great city. It's disappointing to see somebody thinking it's got something to do with the city of Buffalo. I've been here since June, and I've loved every second of it. And we have a great hockey team that's winning games, and a fun atmosphere, electric building, and I would think that our players are loving it here.
So I could easily assume that you're not happy that became as public as it did.
No, because I think the city of Buffalo and the Buffalo Sabres deserve a lot of respect right now with the way we're playing and competing, and that's it.
In situations like that one, are you able to kind of make your pitch to the player? Is that like case by case if the player wants to talk to you? Or?
Any kind of talks like that are depending on what the agreement is between the two GMs, and that's where I'd leave it at.
When you became GM, you talked about the goals not to just make the playoffs, but to build a team that can win the cup. How confident are you in this year's team with this Eastern Conference that you can go on a deep run?
I'm very confident. I said that right in my first presser, that I think we can make the playoffs, and I think that we strengthened some of those areas that we needed to strengthen right now to prepare us to go deeper into the spring. But again, I'm going to say this again, that we got to concentrate on what can we do today to be better individuals and better team. We don't want to look any further than that. We're going to concentrate on the game on Saturday, and then when we get that over with, we're going to concentrate on the game on Sunday.
Armo, in your experience, do some of the negotiations maybe you've had in the last week all of a sudden revive in the summer and then become something and maybe become a trade in the summer? But maybe you laid the groundwork now and then they continue once you get to the summertime.
Yeah, it's always like that. It's sort of a annual schedule that you go through as a GM, as a management staff, that there's a trade deadline and then people focus on something different, whether it's college free agents or prospects for the draft, or we got to go see our own prospects and talk to them and consider signing them soon here, and then you shift towards the combine and the draft and the free agency, and that's how it goes, like 12 months round and around we go.
Armo, you mentioned rewarding the team by making these moves. How important was it for you to do that with this group, to let them know that you've got you're supporting them and playing so well?
Yeah, they've earned it. With their play, with their work ethic, with their compete, they've earned all the help that we can give them as management, and I think that we tried our best to do that, and I think we accomplished a lot of things.
Do you have any update on Yuri Kulik and whether he'll be able to play again this season?
We got some unfortunate news on Yuri. Most likely he'll be out for the season. So he's continuing to get treatment, and our main concern obviously is his well-being and long-term health. And second, when he can be back as a hockey player. But he's progressing, but most likely he'll be out for the season.
Do you think that will extend beyond this season, or is it still a little early to know?
I'm not a doctor, so I can't get into any of that, but I think that the doctors are hopeful that this will get resolved before we prepare for next season.
Is he still able to, he's been getting in his full gear in skating, is he still able to do that?
Yeah, he's practicing, but he's not able to have full contact and play hockey, so he's doing his conditioning and preparing for whenever he's ready to play. Yeah, Jordan Greenway and Danforth are both progressing slowly, and there is a chance that they could be back this season, but there's no guarantee. But we're hopeful.
You read a lot of GMs talking. It seemed a little slower than normal here. How much the lack of double retention and the playoff cap, how much has that changed the dynamic of the deadline for all of you guys?
Yeah, I'm sure it plays a role in all of this. Everybody's got the same concerns. Some teams have a little more flexibility than others, but that always comes into consideration. Also, the term of the contract, whether you have use for the player just for this spring or further into the future, and all those different things, and it gets a little more complicated the more you add to it. But I wouldn't say it's much lower than any other deadline, really. I think that we're past 3 o'clock, obviously, now, but you'll still see there's a big lineup in the central registry for trade calls that are going to happen way after the deadline that you're going to find out about. We made a trade for a player for a 7th-round pick, but I can't tell you the name because the trade call hasn't been made yet, so it's not official. But if you read about it after, I don't think that I left it out on purpose.
I'm sure all of us in this room get asked by fans, how did this team turn things around like they have? From your seat, how would you answer that question?
Oh, the coaching staff's done a great job, and the message has been clear all season. I think, I've said it many times, there's a ton of talent and skill on this team, and it's great to see that it's all coming together. Sometimes it takes longer for teams to figure it out, and especially the compete part and the discipline to work together as a team and not just as very talented, skilled individuals. And I'm really happy for the guys in the room. I think they're all really hungry to have success, and now they're having it. They're getting a taste of it. I think they want more. I'm convinced they want more, and they're having fun. So it's really great to see.
For Jacob Bryson and Itzhak Rose and the trade candidates / trade pieces in the Jets deal?
Well, there's always something that the other team wants, and you have to meet their asks to get the trade done, and these were the fitting pieces this time, and that's how it got done.
A lot of money tied up on the blue line, obviously, with some of those core pieces. Do you think it's, like, are you open to the idea of Logan Stanley being with this team beyond this year, depending on how he fits?
We're all open to all the options that we have. We're going to evaluate the team from now on in, and obviously the spring part of the season is the most important part to evaluate. And now we're getting into those games that are playoff games, even though we're still in the regular season. We're competing for a playoff spot, and this is where you really find out about the guy's character, is that how hard do they compete in the most important part of the season. And we're open. We're looking at every guy on our team and making the future plans, looking at the future team that we're going to have and how the pieces fit, and obviously how they fit under the cap and the structure of that. So, all options are wide open right now, and this is the best part of the season to earn the right to be on this team further into the future. Metsa, we papered down, yeah.
Organization is not familiar with the fact that some players who they've looked to bring here have not waived that no trade clause in years past. And, to the point a lot of people have made, you guys are playing good hockey, and you're an 80-point team competing for top of the division this upcoming weekend. Just how frustrating is it that this continues, even despite you guys playing good hockey, is something that kind of still surrounds this organization? And I guess what needs to change to start convincing guys around the league that this is the place you want to, come play hockey?
Let's not change anything. Keep winning, and I think it'll become a destination. As I've said many times now, it's a great city. It's an unbelievable sports market. People love hockey here. You have a winning team. The hockey players want to come here. There's no question about it in my mind.
How concerned are you about the fact it's March 6th and you still don't have a deal with Alex Tuch?
I'm not concerned at all. I think we've had some productive talks with him, and we've expressed our desire to sign him, and we'll continue doing that. I told his agent that we're not going to make our team weaker. If we don't get a deal done by trade deadline, we're not trading him, and we didn't, because we want to strengthen our team and not make it weaker, and Alex is obviously a huge part of it. So now we're going to continue those talks and hopefully get a deal done before July 1st.
What have you thought about the way that he's handled that personally, just like negotiating in season, kind of having that hang over his head, and how have you observed him handling that?
I think he's handled it like a pro. He's playing good hockey. He's an important part of our success here. He's a great penalty killer. He's scoring like he has in his best seasons and contributing in many ways to our team's success. He's being a good teammate, good pro. I don't think I could ask for anything more from Alex Tuch. Thank you.
There it is, live from KeyBank Center, Jarmo Kekalainen, Sabres GM, and he is easy to listen to. I'm sure it's some part the good vibes that we're all feeling about the Sabres, shockingly, since 2 months ago, 3 months ago. But doesn't overtalk. I'm always here for analysis of the talking. That's my area. And he doesn't overspeak, to the point. I think he's easy to believe, Kekalainen. Again, that's one that's much easier when your team is good. And you don't have anything to hide, right? So, I had a smile on my face for much of that press conference, and that's not necessarily common for me. Interestingly, he said there is one more move. I can't tell you what it is because the trade call hasn't happened. When I was talking to Paul, he's not going to announce another move, right? It's not going to be big. He said it was for a 7th-round pick. But there is one more thing yet to come out. about the Sabres here on deadline day. Okay, how about you? You got the vibes, thoughts? Maybe you don't love what they did. That's possible. 803-0550. I'm not sure about the quality of the players they got, but from an appearances standpoint, sure. Depth. I like how Kekalainen put it about the density of the schedule. No doubt about that. They're playing a lot because of the Olympic break this year. So we have that to talk about as well. I reached out again to Sam Panayotovich. He will join at 4:30. A little bit of DJ Moore stuff with Sam. I want to get back to the Sabres after this break, though, and into next hour. Sal Capaccio at 5:30. EJ Radick, NHL Network at 6. Sadly, no Bulldog again today. I'm Mike Schopp. This is WGR.
We've been living in sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole of life. And now it's about to leave. Oh, roller coaster.
This has to be short. Those are the rules. I'd love to hear from some Sabres fans at the top of the hour talking about the future. The deadline is mostly behind them and us. There is one more trade still to be announced for a 7th-round pick, as Jarmo Kekalainen revealed at his press conference just a few minutes ago. We'll talk to Sam Panayotovich next hour. Sal Capaccio, EJ Radick as well today. If you want to talk about them with me, now's good. 803-0550 is the number. The Sabres are winning like crazy. They're getting the calls, too. I'll talk about last night's game as well. No Bulldog today. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
Busy, busy day for both Buffalo sports teams. We will start in the NHL with the Sabres as the trade deadline has passed. We did hear from General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen. We'll get to some of his statements here in just a moment. But to the trade deadline, the Sabres did make 4 acquisitions, 3 of which are with Winnipeg. Defenseman Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn for a second and 27 and a fourth and 26, along with Isak Rosen and Jacob Bryson. And then they've also added forward Tanner Pearson. That is for a 7th-round pick. The year has not yet been reported. And then they also go and get forward Sam Carrick from the Rangers for a 3rd and a 6th in 2026. And as mentioned, Kekalainen did just wrap up speaking with the media. The biggest news is on the injury front, though. Forward Yuri Kulik likely done for the season. The team is hopeful he can return in time to prepare for next season. Kulik has been dealing for much of this year with blood clots. If you missed anything of what he had to say, you can find it up at our website, WGR550.com, or on the Odyssey app. Some other notable moves, especially those that came after the deadline had passed. Detroit gets defenseman Justin Falk from St. Louis for a 1st and a 3rd. Toronto sends forward Bobby McCann to Seattle for a 2nd and 27 and a 4th and 26. And then Anaheim, they get defenseman John Carlson from Washington for a conditional 1st in 26 and a 3rd in 2027. Now to the Bills, it is a day of cuts. Cornerback Taron Johnson out after 8 seasons with Buffalo. Johnson was a second-team All-Pro in 2023. And wide receiver Curtis Samuel is being released after 2 seasons with the team. Johnson, he's expected to clear around $1.9 million in cap, while Samuel is expected to clear around $6 million in cap. We'll get more on the Bills at 5:30 when Sal Capaccio joins the show. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
All right, what's the report from outside?
I was outside for maybe 3 minutes. I counted 8 Q-tips. It's got to be one person that just throws their Q-tips out the window when they're done using them in their cars.
It's Mike Schopp.
One person?
More than one person using Q-tips and throwing them outside?
I don't think I use 8 Q-tips in a year.
I think I've never used 8 Q-tips.
And the Bulldog.
What the hell is going on out there? I don't think I want to work in a place where people roll their windows down if they're using Q-tips for Lord knows what and just throw them on the ground.
Well, you do.
What, is it the 70s?
Oh, that's not very nice.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Driving on the highway 65 miles an hour. I get a little left in my soda from the fast food drive. Out the window. That was the 70s. Who gives an F about anything?
Throw a burrito out the window.
Nothing matters. 2025, what are you doing?
On WGR.
Throwing Q-tips out of your car.
Sports Radio 550.
Did people pass you on the right constantly in the 70s, though? I mean, maybe they did throw things. When cars had ashtrays and 8-tracks, did they always didn't we all go to school and learn that you're not supposed to do that? Because I just can't stop recognizing it now. Every time I'm on the road, I get passed on the right. And, not inevitably, but so often that car kind of speeds by you and then, somebody's merging onto the highway and they hit the brakes, they come in behind you and they go back and do it again and then there's more people merging. That's not what you tuned in for. It's NHL trade deadline day and the final Sabres trade is for winger Tanner Pearson of Winnipeg. He's also been, like Schenn and Carrick in the league a long time. The Sabres are not, their average age went significantly up after these last 24 hours. Pearson has been on 6 teams, I think. 4 in the last 4 years, Vancouver, Montreal, Vegas, Winnipeg. This year for Winnipeg, another trade with the Jets. 3 players from the Jets. 7 goals, 13 points in 52 games. Wonder if he's also depth. I got to think, I'll guess that he is. So there it is. 4 players. Incredible. Is it incredible? What's incredible is that all of this has happened. That the Sabres have turned this season around so dramatically that they're adding 4 veterans today, as opposed to, trading them off, which is most years in the last decade and more. Logan Stanley, 6'7" defenseman, 9 goals this year, far and away the most of his career, so that's probably pretty fluky. Luke Shen, he's old enough for me to probably have his hockey cards. That's back when I was still collecting before my wife and I moved, before we had kids. Luke Shen is back, 2000? He played as a teenager for the Leafs, right? 2009-ish. So I should have made him the card of the day maybe when I get home, if I have it, if I can find one. Not exactly in a frame. Sam Carrick from the Rangers. He's been around a long time, a forward, center, and now Tanner Pearson. The Sabres end up giving up 5 draft picks, a second next year, 4 picks this year, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th. They're hosting the draft. At least they still have their first. When they had the Parayko announcement, I thought about, well, do they want to trade? I guess they did. Their first-round pick when you have the draft. I mean, maybe that's a conversation. Maybe it shouldn't be, but it can be. But that didn't end up happening. Jacob Bryson, Isak Rosen go to Winnipeg. What do you think? 803-0550 for your calls. Sam Panayotovich rescheduled to 4:30. Sal Capaccio at 5:30. EJ Radick, NHL Network at 6. Here's Bob with us. Hi, Bob.
How are you doing today?
Okay.
I really like what they did. I feel like they've added some depth, and they didn't really disrupt the top 9 and the forwards, your top 4 defensemen. That's a pretty good young core, and I'd like to see those guys develop. And I think it was Mike Robitaille said this years and years ago on like an Empire broadcast, how much players develop just after 1 year of getting in the playoffs and just that experience of playing at that level. And I think that, you've rewarded these guys with some help, but you haven't disrupted the core. And I think, there's nobody playing better hockey than the Buffalo Sabres, but they're going to have to figure out how to play playoff hockey. And I think that could take a few years to crack. But, I'm really excited about the future here and going to the game tomorrow night. First time in quite a few years I've been to a Sabres game, so I got tickets for that. And really excited to, see what develops here.
Right. Yes. I bet you are. Thanks, Bob. Have fun tomorrow. It's definitely the point about experience is definitely what they were thinking today. And I never thought they were going to disrupt anything by trading, any important, no offense to Bryson, starter away. So I'm not surprised that they didn't, but I appreciate that they didn't. Like you said, the core, right? Last night on Twitter, when stuff was, bubbling around what they might be doing, and then before that, even when you had Parayko, this was trading your most recent first-round pick and then presumably this year's first for him. And as you know, if you were with us on Wednesday, that was, a very much mixed feelings about it, because he's a big name and a big guy. But what does he have left? I talked to Travis Yost yesterday, and Travis thinks the Sabres dodged a bullet by Parayko turning them down. I don't know what he thinks about these players, by the way. The charts aren't so good on a couple of them. But anyway, that's what he thought. I mean, it was a mixed bag of opinions about what was going on with Parayko. And my thought was, and I tweeted this to a friend last night, like, if you know the movie All the President's Men, and you should, by the way, I think the show has sounded older. I mean, that's a classic. Certain movies are old, but it doesn't matter how old they are. The Godfather, you can't, like, oh, this guy's ancient. He's talking about The Godfather. So if you know All the President's Men, there's a moment in the movie where Woodward and Bernstein, exposing the Watergate scandal, slip up. And the White House gets what it wants. A chance to blast them, ridicule the work, and basically claim that all of it's a lie and, all of that kind of thing. And the editor of the Washington Post in the movie says, F it, let's stand by the boys. There's a big meeting, what do we want to do? Are we going to backpedal? Do we want to retract the story? Anything. And he's like, let's stand by the boys. And that's how I felt last night about the Sabres at one point. Thinking about Parayko, and I'm sorry to go a little bit of a distance there, but it's just me here today. Let's stand by the boys, And I think the point about the value of of a playoff experience, the value of a run, makes sense. It's not always necessary, though. And this is where I guess it'll come out in the results if the Sabres win or lose after making moves with a specific goal of bringing in experience, size, all of it's going to be depth. You bring in anybody, it's going to count as depth. But there are a couple of traits that they went for, and everybody would understand it. Size is always, better than not, and experience is always considered better than not. But this season, and your calls are welcome at 803-0550. I won't talk about movies anymore or how people drive. This season has been so reminiscent of 05-06, which is, it's a compliment for one thing. Any season that reminds you of that season is, great news. And one thing about that year was that team did not have playoff experience. This was post-Hasek. I don't know. They probably had, they had Chris Drury, who maybe had been with the Avalanche on a run. I don't even know. It's so long ago. But they didn't have it. They did not have playoff experience. That was a team with a couple of veterans like him and Briere, and then you had this core of players who came up through their system. Vanek, Roy, Miller, all those, Campbell, those guys who came up through Rochester. And there's a long list. That's what that team was. And I think they got a little bit of a short shrift going into the playoffs for not having that one trait. And it didn't hurt them. You want to tell me it did because they lost Game 7 to Doug Waite's team? I don't know. But it really, they went deep. And I think people are different. I think Tage Thompson doesn't have playoff experience. He has a gold medal from the Olympics, from a higher caliber of competition than most, if not all, of the Stanley Cup playoffs. How about that? He also, like Paul mentioned, won gold at the Worlds last year. That's for players who aren't in the playoffs, but it's something. He scored the goal to win the tournament. He's got some experience winning important games. And he was very relevant in the Olympic run, by the way, as you know. So that, Rasmus Dahlin, 8 years, now 9 with the Sabres, no playoffs, tons of world-level international competition. And he's never the reason why they don't win Sweden. The thing about him in his career is more that he doesn't play enough at times for Sweden, I think. I know I've heard that. But I don't think he's necessarily lacking because he hasn't been to the NHL playoffs. He's got tons of competition at the highest level in the world. And, maybe there are other examples of this on this roster. But they don't have the playoff piece, as you said, and they went for it, and it makes sense that they did. I just don't think it always matters. And there are going to be teams in this playoff field that don't have a lot of it either, whether that's Montreal or Detroit, whoever it is. The Islanders, there are teams in here who are relatively new to it. You don't have Florida. You don't have Toronto. You don't have the Rangers. You don't probably have Washington. These are teams that are they're always in the playoffs. So there's a lot of new blood. I'm not worried about it. In 2006, they had to beat Philadelphia in the first round. They were very even with them. Then it turned out they had to beat the best team in the conference, Ottawa, in the second round, and they did it. They did both of those things. And I was not surprised. It was close. Ottawa kind of outplayed them, but they also beat them in 5. So say what you want. I wasn't then or now really worried about experience. Look at the run they've had. People say about, at the risk of belaboring this, people say about this time of year now, once you get to March, you'll hear NHL people say it. Like they're all playoff games now. They're not, but you have a higher, the break I think helps, it enhances this too. That you have games now that mean a lot in the standings, and they're like almost every day. So I don't know. How different is it? Kekalainen himself said a few different ways that to make a run in the playoffs, he wanted them to be bigger and deeper, and they did that. He accomplished that. I also think, and this is something that I'm not sure really what I can say about it because it's all kind of on the inside, and I don't really know what his conversations were like with teams or what Kevin Adams' conversations were like with teams. But the piece about Adams to Kekalainen happening right in line with all of this is incredible. And it's hard to dismiss it as a catalyst in what has happened to the Sabres. I mean, it's circumstantial, maybe. Kekalainen's asked about it. He says coaching, right? He's not going to say it's because of him. Even if he thinks it, he's not going to say it. So it might be circumstantial, largely, or it might be what we all kind of think the story could be, which is that once the Sabres moved on from Adams, there's a certain credibility in Kekalainen that Adams lacked. That's what people were all saying, and it always made sense. I mean, he was here 5+ years with no real success, and I think you could work for him, be a player in that locker room, and really just question how serious an organization this is. I mean, we said that all the time. Non-serious. That's a damning term for a sports team, but the Sabres came off as non-serious. Didn't spend to the cap, didn't make moves in seasons when they had a chance, like the last couple earlier when their flaws were evident. They just sat there. And he's the GM. So you make that move and boom, all of this happens. You know, it's hard to dismiss that as a catalyst for this. I started to say, though, on the inside, like, we're listening to Kekalainen. Do you have an opinion about this? We're listening to Kekalainen last hour. And not for the first time, but it hasn't been that often yet. He's still, like, year one here. And he's very easy to listen to and understand and, you know, get and like, even. Like, what do you want there? You want, what do I want? I mean, maybe you'd be different. I like it when they tell you stuff. That helps me. That's interesting. I want to know what goes on in the back, and this is any of their doing that is interesting to me. So you want informative. You want a certain level of mutual respect. You know, question answer, and you want the answers to make sense and be believable. And he comes off very strongly in all of this. And look, if you're trying to make trades with your fellow GMs, that's a trait you want. I did always try to stick up for Adams in this area with us when he stopped doing our show before this year started for some reason. I don't know if that was even our decision, but that didn't happen this year. But other years when he would come on once a month or so, I liked those conversations. I thought he was somebody that wanted to tell you really what was going on. You know, he would take a question that was just a little bit off topic. I liked my conversations with him, our conversations with him. But he did get pretty defensive at times. He did kind of lose the plot a couple times. And then, you know, you had the palm trees thing. And whether it was anything personal about him inside or not, and it doesn't have to be. I don't know. They were just not willing to take shots. And, you know, if you're Darlene or one of these stars, it makes sense to think that you would not have everything to give, as damning as that can be about a player, especially when they're making tons of money and the captain. I never saw that in Darlene, but I often wondered what he was thinking. Like, what did I get into here? He can love the city all he wants, but I'm halfway through my career maybe, and I've just accomplished nothing as a teammate, as a player on a team. So that move needed to happen probably like years ago, and it finally did. And it finally was a GM who had been a GM before. And that's something that the Sabres never had. I don't know, maybe John Muckler would count, Scotty Bowman. I mean, decades ago. It was always somebody who was new at it. And I think it's tougher for those guys to establish their own credibility, and when it goes a while without any success, then it can be a real drag, I suppose. So credit to them to Pegula for finally getting there, and look what it has led to. The caller is going to his first game in years and can't wait, and it's against Nashville. Sorry, Nashville. Nashville and Minnesota are the two teams over the years when we talk about attendance. They're the teams we tend to pick on is what it is. Pick on as like these are these are not marquee games. But I mean, it's a Saturday. Still, like there's definitely Kekalainen talking about the building. That doesn't sound like spin at all. I can believe that completely. I've been in there, and maybe so have you, when it's like this, and it's the best. And this is when Buffalo, as a hockey market, really shines. And we'll talk to EJ Radick later. I'm excited to talk to him about that. I think some of hockey guests and people over the years that have come and gone, and there just hasn't been a relevant team to discuss. We've just missed that. It's not just going to games when it's still light out. We've missed the getting takes on how hot this market can be when this is happening. And I want to think that at this point, these fans, you are all the way there. I mean, I guess there's still 20 games left, and there can be some question about how good they are, I suppose. But 26-5-2, who does that? You watched the game last night. Every 5 minutes, I thought I was hearing A.J. Maleshko or Bob Wischusen make some reference to this is the best team in the NHL since X. This is how they've become the best team in the NHL since X. Wischusen and Maleshko, by the way, what a combination of names for a booth. What a pair of names. I loved last night. I had a smile on my face the whole game. And they're getting calls, right? Did you think the Norris goal would count? Well, Doan is in the crease, and he turns him on his own to face the goalie, and he makes contact with the goalie. Good goal. How about Malenstein running that guy into the wall right in the back? He turned right at the wrong time for Malenstein, right in the back. 2 minutes. He's gone. He wasn't gone. It was a 2-minute penalty that they killed off. The Penguin coach, you could read his lips. He was just in disbelief. Like, what is going on tonight? That's when you know you're hot. Maybe, honestly, maybe they want one of these new defensemen to be a heavy. That's kind of what they probably will want. And if they had been on the scene for Malkin and Dahlin last night, they probably take on Malkin. I'm glad they weren't. I got a 5-minute power play. I scored 4 minutes into it and never looked back. If I get a penalty there on some dumb retaliation thing, then let's not have that. This is better. Nothing escalated. The Sabres walked away. They went on the power play. They scored the winning goal, and that was it. And Malkin left. Good enough for me. I didn't need to see him confronted. It would have been stupid. So, yeah, it's all going so well. Let's get Frank in quickly. Hi, Frank.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. I just want to touch base with your mentioning what do you think actually changed with this team. And I want to bring up the fact that when we got rid of certain players, like players who thought they were maybe too good to be here and want to be elsewhere, like J.J. Peterka, I mean, when we brought in like Doan, players that were maybe, wanted to get ice time, it just seemed like when we brought those players in, it added a spark to this team. And I don't know when the hooting and hollering started in the locker room, but the culture, it seems like these guys have like a energy about them that, is contagious, and you can see it in their play on the ice.
Yeah, I totally see the same thing. Energy is a great word, confidence, belief, all of that. I think players would, to a man, say the same thing. It shows. Thank you, Frank. Next up, Sam Panayotovich. We'll talk a little DJ Moore when we come back. No Bulldog today. It is Friday. It is getting warm out, and life is good. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
It has been a busy day for both Buffalo sports teams. We'll start with the Sabres. The NHL trade deadline has passed, and the Sabres had 4 additions. 2 separate trades with Winnipeg. The big one is for 2 defensemen, Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn. And to do that, they send a 2nd in 27 and a 4th in 26, along with Isak Rozan and Jacob Bryson to get that done. They also then add forward Tanner Pearson in a separate trade for a 7th, and then forward Sam Carrick comes over from the Rangers for a 3rd and a 6th in 2026. We did already hear from General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen. If you did miss any of that, you can find it on our website, WGR550.com, or on the Odyssey app. But the big news is actually on the injury front. Forward Yuri Kulik, likely done for the season. The team is hopeful he can return in time to prepare for next season. Kulik has been dealing with blood clots for much of this year. And then for the Bills, it has been a day of cuts. Cornerback Taron Johnson out after 8 seasons with Buffalo. Johnson was a second-team All-Pro with the Bills in 2023. Wide receiver Curtis Samuel being released after 2 seasons with the team, and safety Taylor Rapp, it has just been reported now, is out as well after 3 seasons. Johnson expected to clear around $1.9 million, Samuel $6 million, and Rapp $3 million. Do stay tuned. We'll get more on the Bills. Sal Capaccio will join the show in about an hour at 5:30. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Bears in a landslide. The thing that worries me with Buffalo is DJ Moore's a good player. He addresses a concern, no doubt. You're now paying your wide receiver group $4 million less than Cincinnati's paying their wide receiver group. They get Chase and Higgins out of that. You have DJ Moore, who, good, and then what else after that? That's a bit of a concern.
Joe Fortenbaugh, ESPN. I'm a Joe Fortenbaugh guy. He's a nice add to their Fantasy Focus show on Sunday mornings, and he knows the betting space. Sam Panayotovich. Sam, are you a Joe Fortenbaugh guy?
Oh, yeah. Joey and I go way back when you couldn't talk betting on the radio. We had to talk in alleys and circles like that. You know, we used to text back in 2016 before this whole thing got started.
I like him. By the way, before we get into it, the Bills also have announced the release of Dane Jackson. So Taron Johnson, Dane Jackson, and Taylor Rapp, all from the secondary, and Curtis Samuel as well. We'll talk to Sal next hour about all of that. They bring in DJ Moore. What's your take, Sam? I mean, you always have Bears takes, too. It's interesting from both sides.
Well, the best availability is being available, right? And he's played 17 games in 5 straight years, so that's something that's certainly a nice shot in the arm for a Bills wide receiver room that has had some injuries to deal with, to say the least. And look, is he a legit number 1? I don't know. I would say he's probably a 2 on a really, really good team. He's a 1 on a bad team or an average team. And the Bears sort of were supposed to be average this year. The win total was 8.5, and they definitely overshot that. But he's a really nice player. He'll catch, about 100 passes in this offense that likes to spread the ball around. He's good for about 6-7 touchdowns a year. And as I said, he's going to play. He's going to play most of the games. He's been on the field very, very much. 17 games the last 5 years. So being durable and available is sometimes more than half the battle.
Can you speak to what his reputation was in Chicago? I know you're not there, living there anymore, but you guys talk about the Bears a lot, and Joe is there, Joe Ostrowski. And Moore was there for a few years. He put up a really nice season with Justin Fields, by the way, and then last year, there were some moments, but you saw other players move in and his numbers came down. And also, there were a couple of things where people raised their eyebrows about like his effort level. Do you know what his reputation was in Chicago?
By all accounts, he was a great teammate from the get-go, but frustration certainly mounted at the end. And you look at his targets. So 3 years in Chicago, year 1, he gets 136 targets, as you mentioned, with Fields. The next year, he had more targets. He had 140. Last year, 85 targets. I mean, that's it. He wasn't getting the ball. So that would make anybody go insane. When you're paid the way you're supposed to be and you believe that you're a number 1 receiver, but you're being out-received by a rookie, Colston Loveland. I think that was it. by all accounts, a good teammate. And remember, he was there on a very bad Bears team in 2023, and he was a very, very good teammate. The coaches liked him. The players liked him. I think last year was just sort of a frustrated year because as Caleb Williams ascended, it was more Colston Loveland and Rome Odunze and Luther Burden and Zacchaeus. Like, these guys were out targeting DJ Moore. As a Bears guy, I'm happy they're not going to have to pay him $100 million for the next 4 years. That's a Buffalo problem, at least at this point. But I think last year you can just strike it up to him being frustrated, not getting the ball enough. And that's what receivers want. Receivers want the ball. He didn't get the ball. He was upset.
And we'll see what happens here.
Right.
The Bills have been a frustrating team in that area, as much winning as they've done. As you know, I'm a fantasy player, and I'd never want to start any Bill other than Cook, I suppose, or Allen, obviously. But who are you supposed to go with? Khalil Shakir is a nice player, but he's not like fantasy nice, really. It's the floor, kind of. And so we'll find out if DJ Moore gets the ball, as you put it, sufficiently here. If he doesn't, they shouldn't have made this trade, Sam.
Well, let me ask you, because you're a big fantasy guy and you put numbers on things rather than reputation. Where would you be looking to draft DJ Moore in fantasy? What round?
I think maybe 4th.
Really?
You think higher?
No, I was going to say lower. I thought 5th or 6th.
Okay, I think that's fine. I have not wanted to draft DJ Moore over the years, really. Like,
right. Ding, 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 ding.
By last year, I was off DJ Moore because of, Burden and Loveland and Odunze. I liked Odunze a lot last year, actually. I'm looking up, trying to find his ADP real quick on Underdog. And this is, you come to me, you want me to know these kind of answers, right? Like, this is, I'm way, way off. ADP is 82. So late 6th or 7th even for DJ Moore. Wide receiver 40. That'll change with the trade. I mean, that is mostly built from before he was traded to the Bills. I think it's a win for him in fantasy going to the Bills.
Yeah, I would think so too. And look, in his prime, and he's still in his prime because he's going to be 29 years old next year. In his prime, you can chalk him up for about 1,000 yards and I think 6 or 7 touchdowns. Now, the question is, what do you do in the playoffs? As every conversation revolves around Buffalo. What do you do in the playoffs? He has not been a playoff performer. He had that huge catch against the Packers. That was in a regular season game in December. We all remember that 50-yard laser from Caleb to DJ Moore. But then he sort of let up on his route on the final play against the Rams. So, we'll see. I would think he would be reinvigorated with a new team as he was when he got to Chicago. But he's a nice player. He's a good teammate. Just get him the ball, and then he won't turn on you.
The game winner in the Green Bay playoff win, too. But, not huge games. But you're right. The Rams play was like right away. What's he doing on this play? Collinsworth was right on that. I'm feeling taken aback by my bad guess at his draft position. But it is going to move way up. Like, he's going after Michael Wilson and Ricky Pearsall. Like, he is not going to end up lower than those guys once the market corrects now that they know he's on the Bills and they're number one. One more on DJ Moore, Sam. So I saw a DraftKings prop around 750 yards. Tell me about those, because who knows who's going to play 17 games? Who knows who's going to miss time? How are those numbers constructed by the books based on, what he did last year and over the course of his career? How did they get to 750?
Well, they certainly don't look at his career average, which is over 1,000. They look a lot at what he did last year. So his receiving number last year was 682, his final yardage in the regular season, and that's 17 games. So obviously they're shading a little bit upward off of that 682 number, but I think it's tough. I think the books have really learned that, you can't make these numbers high enough, because most people, believe it or not, Mike, they like to bet overs on players and they like to parlay overs. But the reality is, a lot of guys, they don't make it 17 games. So I think it's as simple as looking at what he did last year, sort of being in the ballpark off that 682 number, and just expecting that maybe he's going to miss a game or two and he's going to be right around 700. But that will be a player. I will assure you of this. We talk about this on March 6th. That number is going to be higher by August or September, right?
Yeah.
You're going to start seeing him in the summer, and, he's going to have a good rapport with Josh Allen, and Josh is going to say all the good things, and DJ is going to be happy, and that's going to get bet up. So my advice on anything DJ Moore related would be bet the overs early, and if you're going to look to bet an under, I would bet it right before week 1 when it's probably closer to about 800.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that because I love betting unders on those. Last year I got away with one on kind of a big bet on Kyren Williams of the Rams under 10.5 rushing touchdowns. He had 10. He didn't miss a game. I got away with it. But just like I see a number like that, I'm like, oh, just one injury, Blake Corum, something else they're throwing. It seemed like too big of a number, and I guess I was right, but I don't really deserve that much credit winning by a half a touchdown. Does this trade and maybe what it represents, Sam, do anything for you in terms of the Bills and the futures?
No, it won't move much. I mean, I hate to put this little respect on a player, but a wide receiver like DJ Moore is probably worth a point to the line, maybe. Like if DJ's out there and the Bills are favored by 4, DJ rolls an ankle in warm-ups and doesn't play, that line goes to 3.5 maybe. I mean, it doesn't go to 3. And that's obviously, that's a very key number, 3, 7, things like that. But if the Bills were favored by 9 and DJ Moore gets surprisingly ruled out, that number is going to get bet to 8.5, 8. So that's what he's worth. It did nothing to the division number. It did nothing to the win total. I'm minimizing his role, but in the eyes of Vegas, he's really not worth that much to the point spread or the future market. I did, though, before we get too excited here and hang up.
Yes.
I see Lindy got some help. He's even money, Mike, to win the Jack Adams note.
Even money. It's that good.
Yeah.
I was about to ask you. That was my last thing here was how does that look? I saw somewhere that he's the favorite and his lead has increased.
Oh yeah, so he's plus 100, even money, and John Cooper 2-1. But I mean, good grief! Like, what more does the guy have to do? They have the same amount of points as Tampa Bay. I know they have 2 games in hand, but I mean, come on, nobody saw this coming.
Well, we kind of did. You and I, we have this bet, and so we're all in on this bet through you on Lindy. When it was, I don't remember what the price was. You'll have it there maybe. But what I said about it was they're going to play Tampa Bay 4 times, and they might need to catch them. They might need to play them even or do something to take the spotlight on the career achievement, the Lifetime Achievement Award for Cooper. And also Canada did not win gold. He was the coach for Team Canada. They did not win gold, so I don't know. The Sabres, Sam, they're 26-5-2 in their last 33 games. They have caught Tampa, who they play again on Sunday. They split the 2 games that they've played already with the Lightning. So, yeah, maybe whoever wins the division, their coach wins that award.
I mean, when I say nobody saw this coming, I meant more so before the season.
Oh, yeah.
Who saw the Sabres and the Lightning jockeying for first place in the division? Not I.
No.
I can't find the slip. We have like 6 or 7-1 on Lindy.
Yeah.
And we did that, 6 weeks ago or so. So it's a 2-horse race now. Lindy, even money, Cooper 2-1, then Bednar in Colorado's 10-1. So it will come down to the head coach of Buffalo or the head coach of Tampa Bay, and I can't wait.
Big game on Sunday, I guess. And then one more
sure.
with the Lightning.
Let's get it done. Let's cash a ticket. It'd be nice to cash a Buffalo ticket, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm thinking of it today, knowing that I'm going to talk to you. And there was another one that we bet, but that was the Super Bowl MVP. So I guess I can cross that one off at this point. We did not get home on Nick Emenwari, unfortunately. Sam, thanks for your time today. Thanks for being flexible with me. We'll talk next week.
You got it. See you, Mike.
Sam Panayotovich, Chicken Dinner with Joe Ostrowski. Check that out on YouTube. Back to your calls as we continue, 803-0550. If you've got them, NHL trade deadline day, the Sabres bring in 4 players, and we'll get back to that. We will talk to Sal. The Bills send out 4 players today. So there's that as well. And if you have a thought on the DJ Moore trade, I'm open to talking about it here some more today. So it doesn't have to be all Sabres as I see this going forward. EJ Raddick coming up at 6 as well. No Bulldog, unfortunately, still not feeling well. This is Mike Schopp on WGR. Sabres bring 4 players in. Bills send 4 players out. Even trade? 4 for 4? For the Bills, it's Taron Johnson. These are all different. Taron Johnson was excellent for a long time. There's always a money element to this, of course. That's number one. But play started to decline, it seemed. Maybe the body breaking down a little bit. A few different head injuries along the way. And so not shocking that Taron Johnson would go. But he'll live forever in Bills' playoff history for that 100-plus yard pick six against Lamar Jackson in the 2020 playoffs. Good luck to Taron Johnson going forward. He was an important and really good Bills player. Dane Jackson, a lesser move. He's been in and out over the last few years, but not a big mover shaker on the transaction wire there. Taylor Rapp, that one was maybe even a given his cap situation, and he also had his issues with injuries, missing time last year. And then Curtis Samuel, speaking of missing time with injuries, Curtis Samuel, that just never happened. He's another one where the money was really generous. And this is really where we're at with that group overall. You can we did this all day yesterday, you can like DJ Moore just fine. And no one will tell you that he doesn't make the Bills better. But it's a question of, is he worth the money? And I don't think he is. I don't think he's good enough for that. That's what he's making. And if you want to go get a good or great wide receiver, then, you have to, I guess, compromise a little bit. But I don't think he's a $27 million wide receiver. That's what he is, though. And that's really across the board with the Bills at that position. I mean, you heard a clip earlier or yesterday how they come in, maybe it was today, they come in close to Cincinnati in terms of wide receiver, the cap number. Before they cut Samuel, they were second in the league after DJ Moore was acquired, second in the league, I saw, in how much money they pay wide receivers. And all we ever do is complain about how they're not good at wide receiver. Like, it's both things. Not only have they not been able to get Allen the proverbial weapons that he might deserve, but they've spent a lot of money in the process. It's like two problems. And that doesn't change at all with yesterday, except for the part that might change is that Moore is good. Like, that could be a big step forward. Samuel being cut knocks them to only fourth even. That just never got off the ground. He was hurt. Wasn't that his first camp with the Bills? They went to Pittsburgh, and he got hurt in a practice with Pittsburgh, didn't play in the preseason. And apart from a play or two, he had one touchdown, if I recall correctly, in the playoff win over Denver. But they won that game in a walk. Just kind of a typical example of what has gone wrong for the Bills at that position. And it has to be included in the analysis that there were injuries. That's been a part of his career. You never know. You can't really predict that. So there's a little bit of bad luck in it too. But Curtis Samuel really I always liked him when he was playing for Carolina. He's somebody I did like drafting in fantasy, unlike pretty much DJ Moore. But it never happened here for Samuel. So the Bills are off to their cuts, trying to get under the number that they need to do for next week, where you have the so-called legal tampering period and then free agency. I think it's Wednesday, where they'd have to be under the cap by that start of the new league year date. I think it's Wednesday, but Sal will know. We'll talk to Sal in about 35 minutes. Next, we'll look for your calls again at 803-0550. Mostly talking Sabres, but the Bills news is interesting too. No Bulldog, unfortunately, today. Hope to have him back on Monday. Sabres home tomorrow and Sunday. This is WGR.
Both Buffalo sports teams had themselves a busy day. We'll start with the Sabres. Today was the NHL trade deadline. It passed at 3 p.m., and before that deadline, the Sabres had 4 acquisitions. 2 separate trades with the Winnipeg Jets. We'll start with the defensemen, Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn, for a 2nd and 27, a 4th and 26, and then Isak Rosen and Jacob Bryson. And then they also add forward Tanner Pearson from Winnipeg for a 7th, and forward Sam Carrick, he comes over from the Rangers for a 3rd and a 6th in 2026. General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen did speak with the media earlier today. If you missed any of that, you can find it on our website, WGR550.com, or on the Odyssey app. But perhaps the biggest news from that, forward Yuri Kulik likely is done for the season. The team is hopeful he can return in time to prepare for next year. Kulik, much of this season, has been dealing with blood clots. Some other notable moves in the NHL. Detroit gets defenseman Justin Falk from St. Louis for a 1st and a 3rd. Colorado, they acquire forward Nazem Kadri and a 4th from Calgary. They send their way a conditional 1st and 28, a conditional 2nd and 27. Victor Olofsson, hello old friend, and Max Curran. The Islanders, they are acquiring blue center Braden Shen for a 1st and a 3rd. Jonathan Duran and goaltender prospect Marcus Gildoff. And then Anaheim, they get defenseman John Carlson from Washington for a conditional 1st and 26th and a 3rd in 2027. And then to the Bills, it is a day of cuts. They have officially announced 4 of them. Cornerbacks Taron Johnson and Dane Jackson, specifically with Johnson. He was with the Bills for 8 years and a second-team All-Pro in 2023. And then going along with those 2, wide receiver Curtis Samuel and safety Taylor Rapp. We'll get more on the Bills coming up in just about a half hour when Sal Capaccio joins the show at 5:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Raisin Bran? You got to put Raisin Bran up there. Everybody knows it.
It's Mike Schopp.
Listen, get your own stupid old dying person team and choose your own cereals.
And the Bulldog.
I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves.
That cereal is soggy. You reach into the fridge for the milk and open the lid on the milk to pour it in there, and that crap is already soggy.
I am untethered and my rage knows no bounds.
That's a problem for a cereal.
I
huge think.
problem.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Welcome back. Happy Friday, 5 o'clock. We've got the Sabres, sudden movers and shakers and winners in the Eastern Conference, the NHL. It's all pretty amazing. The Bills are doing the tough work today, cutting veteran players, and not really anything unexpected there. But we do have the DJ Moore trade. That wasn't anything close to being a given. Kind of not shocking that they would do something like that, but exciting to talk about as well. Just thinking about as we continue here. Sal at 5:30, EJ Raddick, NHL Network at 6. So lines are going to be open for you right here. Thinking about Parayko again and how that fell through for the Sabres. The Blues had a press conference, and it was a little bit weird. They were talking about, I didn't see it, but I'm reading about it, checking people's phones to see if anybody is caught leaking the Parayko trade. I don't know. It was weird from the beginning that we had the exact specs of a trade before he agreed to it, because they always knew he needed to agree to it. And then, of course, he ultimately did not. And it was a little bit, it was another case of, somebody doesn't want to play in Buffalo. Jarmo Kekalainen got a few questions today about that aspect of it, and he consistently, repeatedly said, we're not going to change anything. It's going really well. I love it here. Our players do, all of that, which I can certainly believe. It's nice when you're winning, you know. A lot of that stigma is from so much losing, and it's just not enough time yet to reverse all of that, I think not assuming Buffalo is where you want to be traded to, it can be reasonable. And then there's also the personal aspects of it. This is a player that has been in the league a long time, only for one team, and I don't really blame him for his choice. He's earned the right to make that choice. And I don't think he ultimately was traded anywhere, Parayko. But here's the point. All that having played out here in the last 2 days or so, it's a day where they brought in 4 back-of-the-lineup players at best. And that's all well and good. You want that. He wanted more experience, he wanted more size, and he got it. 2 defensemen, 2 forwards. I think he met his goals, Kekalainen. I would be annoyed with the Parayko thing if I thought he was a better idea. And if I thought he was a better idea, I think I would be standing there more than kind of enjoying the moves that they did make. That here we are again with a player that was a big get, and he scuttled the move, taking us right back into the palm trees and taxes stuff. If I thought Parayko was a better player, I would be mad about that. I mean, he's probably better than the guys they got. He was more expensive by the reported trade by far than the guys they got, so that would make sense. But I'm not really bummed out about it. Talking to Travis yesterday, reading enough people who I respect that weren't that excited about that acquisition, okay. I mean, if it's someone better, and I'm talking about essentially trading 2 first-round picks, you certainly could think he's better than I'm saying. But if we're talking about somebody better that the Sabres were willing to trade 2 firsts for, that's the lead. That's the lead of the trade deadline. Then I'd be fighting with myself about sort of being critical at a time where the vibes are so good with the Sabres. I'm not down at all on what they did. I mean, a couple of these guys, the defensemen from Winnipeg, the charts are pretty gross on Shen, and more so, I think, on Logan Stanley. But they're going to play lesser roles here, and I think what they did in the end all made sense. And I did think Parayko would have made sense. I mean, you're talking about a team with a chance to win and being willing to trade prospects and draft picks in the process. I mean, that's all perfectly normal to see happen. But I just, after 2 days of thinking about him and what this would all add up to after the deadline was over, good luck to him, and good luck to the guys we've got. That's what matters. Let's stand by the boys, right? We talked earlier, a caller brought up the experience point and how important it is. And that's there for you, too, to discuss. I mean, that's what we're all going to be talking about Sabres-wise here for maybe like much of the rest of the season. It's going to be big. As the playoffs come closer, they're not quite a lock yet, but they're closing in on that. That's going to be everybody's maybe main talking point about them. Maybe less so relative inexperience on the roster than just the drought ending and how long it's been since they've been good, and players like Thompson and Dahlin who've never had a taste of the playoffs before, what that's going to look like. I just can't wait. I think today was fine. I think it made sense. And I don't think they really lose much not getting Parayko. I mean, if they had gotten Parayko, they don't do some of this today, right? I mean, they don't need 2 more defensemen from Winnipeg. They did send Jacob Bryson out. I don't know. I doubt they would have done as much, but it doesn't bother me. I'm in such a good mood about them, and shouldn't we all be? Like, this is crazy. You sit down, you watch them on ESPN, and they just roll the Penguins. Like, okay. A lot of these games, even last night's, I would say, they're not like dominating, but who does that? I mean, they're winning. And it's just so much fun. I'm so happy for everybody all the fans who are enjoying this, but especially those who like sort of stuck with it in a way that I admittedly did not do. I have a professional obligation that I would admit at times I didn't take that seriously because the team was such a drag to talk about. It was like doubly annoying. You get to this time of the year and they're dead, and there's all this NFL stuff happening. The playoffs are so much fun. We're left out. And then there'd be games, and we'd stop a conversation about Bill stuff to give you a pregame show like these, and, you know, kind of like, who cares? And I, on a personal level, having had season tickets for almost 20 years, I got really fed up. I wasn't having any fun in there. And it's just like, again, exponentially annoying because you know how much money you're spending. You know that other teams have nice things and you don't. And the building's maybe half empty. And the people who are there are rooting for the other team anyway. And sometimes you think it's better off if we lose. We certainly had that experience. It's just, think of all the different parts of the conversation that have just been upended or even killed. And it's also, each and every one of them on its own is great to have, you know, be behind us and put together. It's just amazing. And it's always better when you don't see it coming, isn't it? I mean, I like being right. I would like to have told you I thought all along this team would be great. I definitely did not. I like being right, but whatever. It's really fun when you get a team like this. Think of the Bills, right? I mean, we're at the point with the Bills and have been for a couple of years where it's just all this pressure. It's only a successful season if you go farther than the year before. And that hasn't been easy. And they haven't really done it. I mean, they've hit their heads on the ceiling in the playoffs. So now it's like the regular season. I mean, games are fun, but you kind of expect to win, and it's all about the playoffs, where you have the Sabres now, and it's just the best. All a big surprise. People that stuck in there with tickets, good for you. I just couldn't. I was having such a miserable time going and would find like every flaw in it. Just sort of, that's kind of my nature, and I would get so negative thinking about what I was giving up to go, whether that's money. It is money. It's also time, and what a breath of fresh air. So good for you. If we had a caller before who hasn't been to a game in years, he's going tomorrow. Like, what a great feeling. All right. That's enough from me for the moment. 803-0550 for your calls. Let's talk to Pat here next. Hi, Pat.
Hey, I just kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying. I'm lucky enough. I'm in Connecticut right now. My son just completed his first year of hockey in several years. He had a bad experience before. He's loving the game and just sharing the Sabres with him. We've been watching for years, and he just like always asks, why are they so bad? And this has just been, I mean, it really is like almost life-changing. It's so refreshing. It's so amazing to share this with him again.
You know what else, Pat? And I can speak from experience on this one sitting in here for so long. It has not always been easy to answer the question your son asked.
Oh, my God. He's a Bills fan and a Sabres fan, and I felt guilty for so long.
But if he asks you, why do they lose all the time, what do you say? I mean, they've had high draft picks that have become great players, and it still hasn't been enough to even get them in. So it's
crazy.
Not been an easy question.
I can't even believe, and I feel so excited and also like bad for him because he's never experienced playoff hockey. I mean, you were talking about Tage and Darlene, but as a fan, when every game is like a heart attack, it's just insane.
Yeah, it's really fun. Thanks, Pat, for sharing all that. You know, my daughter is the same age as the drought. She's never been alive for a Sabres playoff game, and she's a hockey player. I'm not sure how into them she is, but, you know, once in a while I can catch her watching a game. She still likes Seattle. That's what happens when your team is just never in the playoffs. You sort of gravitate, or it can happen. You don't have to gravitate to an expansion team, but she's a kid and like the colors and the logo and the name and everything like that. I mean, I was there once. I rooted for Seattle in football. Did you know that? When I was a kid, I rooted for the Bills also, but the Seahawks were kind of my favorite for a while. Part of that was because my mother is left-handed, and their quarterback, when I started watching, was left-handed, Jim Zorn. So I liked him, and I tried to learn to throw left-handed. I sort of got into that. So anyway, enough about I said I would stop talking. Frank is next. Hi, Frank.
Hey, how's it going? Happy Friday, by the way.
Thank you.
So I just, I'm loving the Sabres just being in the playoffs, but I kind of wanted to address the DJ Moore.
Sure.
I feel like it's going to work out, and I think all of our hopes and worries are not really as important as the amount of money that we spent on him. I think that's the major downfall, is that we probably could have got two mid-tier players for the same price that probably would have been just as well. But it just seems like that Buffalo is having problems getting players. When they say we have Josh Allen and people want to play for us, it seems like we're having difficulty having players. Or players come here and want to come here. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Yeah. I think it's going to be a great move, but I think we did overpay just a little bit.
Okay, thanks. I think they overpaid by a lot when you put together the draft pick and the money that they're guaranteeing him for 3 years. I mean, into his post-30-year-old phase of his career. Cross your fingers. But I don't agree with they could have just gotten two lesser guys and done just as well, because that's what they've been doing. They've been settling at that position, and this at least is a different direction for them. I don't know that DJ Moore is great, but he's good, and he's better than who they've got. So I'd rather they do this, all else equal, I'd rather they do this than two mid-tier players, as you put it. Let's go to Steve next. Hi, Steve.
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
On to the Sabres, and I know it is a celebratory era, and obviously the vibes are a lot better than they used to be. And I don't mean this to come off like negative or cynical. I just think that we've been so conditioned to lower our standards to the point where the 14-year playoff appearance drought is what we consider to be the drought, which, in my opinion, I think you have to go back to 2007. I think the drought is the last time the Sabres have won a playoff round.
Mm-hmm.
And that's harsh and maybe unfair, but if they don't do it this year, it is 20 years since playoff wins. 20 years. Say that out loud. They have not atoned for Drury and Briere. I mean, you could draw a through line for all the ineptitude, all the problems, the rebuilding, the tank years, all the draft picks. Everything goes back to July 1st, 2007. It's not fair, and maybe I'm scarred from it until they win a round, but really, they have not done it since. I think that, I know you talk about it's fun that there isn't the same kind of pressure like it is on the Bills, and sure, that's true, but if they don't do it this year, it's 20 years since the playoff round, and I think that you've got to start to – I think Sabres fans need to start looking at it through that lens, not just getting in, but you got to win. I mean, they have not done it since that fateful day 20 years ago.
Well, I agree. Thank you, Steve. I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, many times I've said they're still not recovered from the blow of losing those two players. But fans absolutely do not have to make this harder for themselves. You do not have to do that. I mean, not to get philosophical, we know the stats. I mean, you're right. It doesn't help you to fixate on that. It's not healthy to think about all the years of losing. I mean, hopefully those days are over. They're never over permanently, but sure. I mean, they could win. It's not going to be, I think, a huge long shot to think they could win in the playoffs, even maybe more than once. So I don't want to dwell on 2007 right now. I mean, not even the drought. I mean, we did reference it. But, yeah, I mean, you're right. You want to set a high standard and make it that it's winning in the playoffs that really should be the standard. And I don't disagree with that. I'm just not going to sit here and, obsess about it. Let's go to Jim next. Hi, Jim.
How you doing, Mike?
Okay.
I'm going to have to agree with every caller that's had before me, but my daughters and I have a mutual love for hockey to begin with, and the Sabres especially. My oldest daughter, when she was 1 year old, I sat her on a table, and the players signed her from the 05 team, her jersey.
Oh.
And now she's still got that jersey, but she's been holding on to it, hoping and praying that someday the Sabres would be good again. And my wife absolutely hated hockey until 2 years ago, and we took her to her first game. And even through all these crummy games that we've seen over the last 14 years, my daughters have wanted to go to every single game. And then we went to as they started getting good and the arena started filling up and it started feeling like old-time hockey, they were so amazed by the feeling and the atmosphere and the noise. And they both work full-time jobs, but they want to buy tickets and take me to the game with my wife because they just want to be at the game. It's amazing to feel because I've been a fan since 1970 when they were brought into the league, and it's great that they're finally coming back into that kind of play.
Yeah, well said. Thank you, Jim. Maybe I'll see you in there one of these games. I mentioned my daughter. My wife with the Sabres is a big part of how I remember the good times. I think of her more than anyone else because I don't think she had really been a big hockey fan, but we got in after the canceled season and it was cheap. And then we built our ticket group into, I had 30 people at my house one year with how many tickets we had accrued. So it became like a really important thing in our lives. And not to say she hasn't had her own journey, if you will, but what my indifference to it meant that we didn't share in that at all anymore, other than the random game or two over the course of the year where it almost felt like an obligation because we had the tickets and, does my son want to go? Not really. Does my daughter want to go? Not really. Like it's just so different. But now I'm turning the game on as soon as I get home. Last night, for example, and she sits down and watches it too. And she wants to know who everybody is. She wants to relearn the Sabres. She has a Pominville jersey and a Gaustad jersey. And I said last night, maybe you got to whip that out. We have a couple of games coming up still to go this year. Maybe you wear the old jersey. Like, I don't know. It's probably, I don't know. But it's wonderful for me personally to have her on this ride too, as you say about your family. Like that has been really cool. And it's just getting better now. The playoffs are such a different level. But you can watch, let's hope anyway, you can watch these 20 games that are left and feel like their chances are really good. And that's just so great that they might even get so hot here that it's going to be more of a formality that they make it. Not to jinx anything, but they came out of the Olympic break. What did we say before the Olympic break? And we said it prematurely. Oh, what a terrible time for the Olympic break for them because they're just winning all the time. They did lose a couple right before. And, so it wasn't really right to say that as early as we did. But still, they were on such a roll. They come back from the Olympics, and it's 5 straight wins. In Jersey, in Florida, in Tampa, like easily. The next night, by the way, back-to-back on the road, easy game. The Vegas game, and then in Pittsburgh, 5-1. Like, we're going to be asking each other the rest of the way here how real this is, goaltending has a lot to do with it, and that can swing. Like, speaking of a lack of experience, here are 2 goalies where what are you expecting from them as we get into the playoffs or even close to it? Do we trust it? There are going to be many conversations of that sort, and I welcome it. I think it'll be just so much fun it's so much fun to have them back on this kind of level where, like, I was ready today to break down plays, like that Malenstein hit where he only gets the 2. I mentioned this earlier. Like, how is that only 2 minutes? Norris on that rebound with Doan in front of the net. Just certain plays from this game, Tuck's deflection. That's so back for me, and I hope for you, because for a long time we just sort of dropped all of that. And now we're watching games with that kind of level of interest. Again, I should say myself, because this doesn't have to apply to you, but I know it applies to many people, because that's how it goes. When they get hot, we go with them. We're here for it. Back to the Bills after the update. Sal Capaccio joins me. We'll analyze the different moves they made today. Few guys out the door. EJ Radick, NHL Network, expecting a call from EJ coming up at 6. This is Mike Schopp. Bulldog is hopefully back with me on Monday. You're listening to WGR.
Busy day for the Buffalo sports teams. We'll start with the Bills here, as it was a day of cuts. They announced officially 4 of them. Cornerbacks Taron Johnson and Dane Jackson. Johnson specifically was with the Bills for 8 seasons and was a second-team All-Pro in 2023 with the Bills. And then they've also released wide receiver Curtis Samuel and safety Taylor Rapp. We'll get more on the Bills coming up next as Sal Capaccio will join the show. And then over to the Sabres. They made 4 acquisitions as the trade deadline passed at 3 p.m. 2 separate trades with Winnipeg. Defensemen Logan Stanley and Luke Shen come over for a second in 27, a fourth in 26, along with Isak Rosen and Jacob Bryson. And then they've also added forward Tanner Pearson from Winnipeg for a 7th. And then they also add another forward in Sam Carrick. He comes over from the Rangers for a 3rd and a 6th in 2026. General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen did speak earlier this afternoon with the media. If you did miss any of that, it's over on the Odyssey app or our website, WGRSportsRadio550.com. But perhaps the biggest news for Yuri Kulich, he is likely done for the season. The team is hopeful he can return in time to prepare for next year. Much of this season has been lost for Kulich as he's been dealing with blood clots. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Back to the Bills on NHL trade deadline day. I'm doing my best to cover all of it as best I can. Of course, the Sabres' success isn't all good, as it really takes a chunk out of our ability to speculate about the NFL schedule. I, for one, am going to miss the time that Sal has spent with us. We'll sprinkle it in. We'll sprinkle it in, but these games matter now. So otherwise, not today because there is actual news, but otherwise, Sal, I'd be ready to go on. I mean, they are opening a new stadium. It will be kind of cool to try to predict or imagine who they're going to play.
Yeah, for sure. They have there's certainly several choices. Would be a great opening game. Night game, I think, the NFL does like to highlight the new stadiums early on. We know that. Would it be maybe week 1 or week 2? I think week 2 is very likely because you get week 1, the other games they can highlight, plus an extra week to get the stadium ready, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I had Chris Emma on today from our sister station in Chicago, The Score, and I said, what do you think? Bears at Bills, prime time? He said, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds right. So, he was all aboard a maybe Bears-Bills primetime game this year.
The schedule is great. Almost everybody's good. It won't be the Dolphins. Well, it could be a team like that because of the history, but really almost everybody on the schedule, just not Dolphins or Jets, is a really interesting matchup this year. All right, well, we did end up getting some of that in anyway. 4 players released today. You've been asked a few times on different shows what might be a surprise cut. I don't think there is one here. Maybe Taron Johnson comes the closest, but you're not going to tell me that it's that surprising, I think.
No, not that surprising. I think that considering the affinity for the player, what he's been to the organization, I think that there would always be a willingness or a want to maybe try and work it out some way. This, though, as I think we talked about at the Combine after hearing from Brandon Beane, it was clear this move was not about Taron Johnson, the player. This move is about the defense. Like, he just kind of doesn't fit anymore, Mike. You know what I mean? And you're paying him a lot of money. Now, I think the rub here is, well, you're only saving a little bit by releasing him. Really, $2 million, less than that. But it is $2 million, and you can use that. The pushback I got today from people, or at least that I saw from people, was, well, why the heck didn't you make it a post-June 1 cut? Now, let me explain the way post-June 1 cuts work for people, because I think there is some confusion. You designate a player a post-June 1 cut right now when you release him, and he is automatically a free agent. It doesn't mean he's on your team until June 1st. But the reason you do it is you save more money. You save more money by doing it that way. So it counts kind of as a cut for next year, but you have to spread the dead cap hit over 2 years. So you save way more money. They would have saved like $8 million by doing it post June 1. The difference is you don't get to use that money until June 1st. So the Bills get $2 million to use now in free agency versus waiting till June 1st to have $8 million open up. I understand people who would think that that'd be the better option, but they clearly need to have room to operate and felt this was the better course of action and take the dead cap hit right now.
Man, I would love to have that choice for myself in real life. Take $2 million today or wait probably longer than a couple of months. That'd be easy to say yes to.
Mm-hmm.
If I know I'm going to have $8 million on June 1st, I would definitely pick that.
Well, obviously, real quick, but obviously March 11th is free agency. By June 1st, there's really no,
I
free
know.
agency has dried up. But we also have been in situations, Mike, where you've seen they did sign, I think, Leonard Floyd after June 1st a couple years ago. And they've needed money to make trades the last couple of years they didn't have, where that could come into play. So I understand both sides to it here from fans.
Yeah, me too. I'm just imagining, I'm daydreaming, thinking of a Brewster's Million situation where if I could take some money now, but I could win a lot more if I'm just patient. Yes. What is it? What's the food in the game where I'm losing my mind here. A kid has what?
The marshmallows?
Is it marshmallows? Okay, thank you for bailing me out. One now or two later.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Anyway,
I think that's it.
Curtis Samuel, let's wait on Curtis Samuel. Rapp and even Dane Jackson while we're in the secondary.
Yeah.
Sal, Rapp is also no surprise.
No, that's one I've been telling you guys for a while that I would expect, along with Samuel, which we'll get to. Those are the two. The two main guys I felt all along, like, yeah, they're going to move on from them, are Taylor Rapp and Curtis Samuel, just because of what you save and what really where it's gone with them, I guess, with the organization. So Taylor Rapp moves on, but now you do have to find another safety.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Another safety here next to Cole Bishop. Jordan Hancock could be an option there. We haven't talked a lot about him, but he had a pretty uneven rookie year, but so did Cole Bishop. So maybe he becomes somebody. They do have Wande Owens under contract, who's a nice athletic guy from college, but it's not somebody you would think would move the needle, but I have heard nice things about him. But I think other than that, you're looking at, okay, what do they do at safety here? Is that somebody you get in free agency? Is that somebody that you draft? So I think Taylor Rapp's, release kind of does bring that even more into question. Dane Jackson's interesting. I didn't even have Dane Jackson on their roster, but then I revisited and say, wait a minute. The reason why he's on the roster is they signed him after the regular season last year. This regular season was over. They needed him, or right at the end of the year, whatever it was, they had to have him. I think it was right when the playoffs started because they had so many injuries and they could only elevate two players. They actually signed him to the active roster. And by doing that, they gave him a 1-year deal, which is this year. So now they get to get rid of him, I guess, and, clear the money, $1.2 million for him.
Samuel, man, I liked this player when he was younger. They signed him, the Bills, going into his age 28 season. So he'd been in the league 7 years, as it happens at that point. And it just never got off the ground. He's not alone in this, but he's kind of an example, a poster child of where the Bills have gone wrong, I would say, at receiver. Some of it's luck. I mean, he got hurt before his first season, right, in Pittsburgh. Yeah. But still, 45 catches in 24 games, including playoffs, did not cut it.
It didn't work out so well. And, this is a player that the Bills brought in part because Joe Brady worked with him in Carolina and had success with him.
Uh-oh.
And that's right. And that's something we're talking about now with Joe Brady working with DJ Moore. And, people want to revisit and say, wait a minute, well, that didn't work out so well when you brought in Curtis Samuel. Totally get it, but injuries were a part of that. And it just felt like Curtis Samuel wasn't the kind of guy. Everything I heard, I had Chris Emmett on today from The Score in Chicago. And I asked him actually about Samuel. I remember you yesterday, I was listening to you, and you brought up you brought it with me, how a couple questions about, maybe running routes or, not finishing plays or something like that. And, Chris Collins were talking about
DJ Moore. Yeah.
DJ Moore. And I actually brought that up to Chris Emma. Chris Emma said, listen, that was one time. It was a miscommunication. Collinsworth made a really big deal out of it. He actually brought up the point of multiple times throughout the season that DJ Moore went to the medical tent and came out and came back in and played. Like, he is a gamer. He wants to play. He wants to be on the field. He is not like that at all. So just that was his perspective of covering him. And the reason I bring this up is Curtis Samuel always felt to me like a guy that if he was a little banged up, he was unavailable. You know what I mean? It was just something where not necessarily chronically injured, but maybe not fighting through a lot of things. And it seemed like maybe things just kept happening and piling up, and it never was where he really was that same guy who wanted to push through everything.
Interesting. I'll defer to you on that. I was listening this morning to that interview, and you even got some hockey in. Those are the scenes right now. Those are the scenes. Even when Sal's talking to a Bears guy, it's also going to include a thing on the Blackhawks, which I get. Sal Capaccio on the West Her hotline, and like that's the four cuts. I talked to Sam Panayotovich earlier today while we're doing this, and he said, I asked him, what's your version of DJ Moore's reputation in Chicago? Not that he lives there anymore, but those two guys are always talking about the Bears. Joe Ostrowski lives in Chicago, and he said all good things. Also, Sal, like he said a lot of the same stuff you were just relaying to me. So I don't want to make more out of it than this, but it is part of the story, you know, on more like just even if it is a couple of isolated things that come to mind. It is like Diggs to me, where when Diggs was acquired, oh, wow, well, look at the route, the technique, and you don't know how good he is. So there was that, but there were just sort of like, what went wrong in Minnesota? Like, why was there this drama and whatever else? And what did we get? We got elite level production for a few years, and then we got drama from Diggs. So really, I don't know if it's fair to think of the two the same way, but that's what comes to my mind. Is it's familiar talking about DJ Moore. How good is he really? That's what we did with Diggs. And are there other things I have to think about?
I get it. Yeah. And, I guess, like I said to you yesterday, you're going to have to be really comfortable with those answers when you start asking and you look into it. And if Joe Brady and Brandon Beane have looked into it as much as they should, and I would trust they would in this situation by giving up a second rounder, then they got to be in the money that comes along with it. However, it's diced up. You're still a lot of money there. You got to be really comfortable with the player you're getting and the character you're getting and the lack of the drama and all that kind of stuff. But it's funny. He is, as I said yesterday with you and we talked about, he is like the number one guy in the Bills, but I don't consider him like a true number one. He's kind of, in that next tier below, I guess, maybe. So I still think they could add to the position, and I don't know if that means I can't see them getting like that true elite number one to go out and trade for that, but I still think they could add to more of the top end of the depth chart in some capacity than the bottom end.
Actually, I'll say this too. It's also Amari Cooper for me when the Bills got him. Because he's had some blow up games in a good way for the Browns and over the course of his career, but I also never forgot when I watched him play one game for Dallas against New England. He was the coldest. He looked the coldest of any person I'd ever seen in my entire life. Where they've got that pouch and his hands were so deep into his pouch. Like, I don't know. That's all of this is a little bit unfair, but that's what I thought of when it was Amari Cooper season around here. Okay, thanks for finding some time for me today. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Sal Capaccio on the West Her Hotline. His appearance is brought to you by New York's only Outlet Liquor, your place to buy a case. Outlet Liquor. What's your outlet? Okay, time for a break. We haven't. Zach's been mentioning it, and it's great to. It's necessary. From Jarmo Kekalainen today, the news on Kulik. I haven't spent a minute on that, but it was a pretty newsy press conference, as these things go. He said he had a trade made that wasn't out yet. That came to be Tanner Pearson for a 7th-round pick. And he also kind of broke the news on Kulik. He called it unfortunate news that he most likely will not return this season. I mean, the Sabres are getting along without him, but that's tough. And similar on Greenway, that we hope to have him back is kind of how that sounded for a few of their injured guys. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is not with us. He'll be back, we hope, on Monday. Sabre games tomorrow at home against Nashville tomorrow, and then Tampa Bay on Sunday. The Sabres and Lightning are tied with 80 points. Stay with us. This is WGR. Welcome back. Not something that ever needed to be brought up, but just last night I was doing my thing on YouTube after the – what does doing my thing on YouTube mean? After the Sabres game was over, what does that mean? Watching old stuff. Certain old sporting events, my wheelhouse is like late 70s to mid 80s, will pop up, recommended. And there was a Monday Night Football game, the Dolphins and the Jets, 1987. I never have the full intention of watching very much of it, but I just want to get a taste of it. It's Al, Frank, and Dan. I'm in Miami, and let's see. And they showed a graphic right away of the standings in 1987 before this game in the AFC East. And first they showed all 5 teams. How has the show ever sounded older? 5 teams in the AFC East, the current 4 and the Colts. All 5 teams were 4-4. Like, oh, that's kind of wild. I didn't remember that. I'll take a little picture of that. And then they went and showed it, and everybody was 5-5 2 weeks later. The fact that they all played the same number of games even would have been unusual, I think, with bye weeks, whatever, but I don't know. I put that on Twitter. Other people are breaking news and announcing trades. What you get from me, you get a graphic of 5 AFC East teams in 1987 with the same record. I think that was a first to be so long into an NFL season where everybody had the same record. The Colts would win that division, and the Bills would just miss. Everybody stayed close, but the Bills lost a game to the Patriots late that year at home, and that kind of took them out of it. So Eric Dickerson's Indianapolis Colts won that thing at everybody missed a game too because of the strike. There was 1 week was canceled, and there were 3 strike games. I think Indy went 9-6. And maybe the Bills win it if not for the strike because they lost 2 of their 3 strike games. I don't know. 1987 nostalgia. There you go. For your weekend. Get you in the mood for the weekend. Brian is with us. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Mike. My reaction to the DJ Moore trade, I guess I feel like we're sliding right back into the comfort zone that we always do with Bean. We mitigate risk by trading for a veteran. Okay, we've seen that a couple times. But what I can't believe is, and one of my takeaways was I'm sitting there watching the combine, and I'm just watching all these electric athletes just blaze these 40s. You got 14 receivers that run sub 4.4 flat or better. You got 11-foot broad jumps just popping off the screen, 43-inch verticals, and I get the feeling like once again, after the Moore trade, I don't expect them to use a first-round pick on receiver. This is going to be, I feel like, the big move. And so, looking at it the rest of this, offseason, okay, maybe you can get, a middle to lower tier free agent is what it feels like, and maybe a late-round pick. And I get that we have a ton of defensive needs. But I just kind of find to myself, once again, we just are adverse to developing these guys ourselves, to drafting receiver high and developing them ourselves. Because at best, if I'm right and you don't draft one in the first round, you're not getting to that pick until 100, 90 to 100. And at that point, man, a lot of those explosive athletes are gone. And so that's my disappointment with it. In addition, because, do I feel like DJ Moore is an ascending player? No, I feel like 29, and we're probably at the top of the curve on the way down. So good for us, but, relative to the league, I don't think he really moves the needle. And then as far as the Sabres, just real quick, man, what I enjoy is just, man, they play hard. And the second somebody gets in their crease, touches the goalie, dude, they are there, and they are sticking up for their teammates. So we've talked about the value of that over the years, the feistiness and the grittiness or what have you. But, man, they do play hard, and they do play for each other. And I do enjoy watching that.
Thank you, Brian. I concur that I would just be shocked if the Bills used their first-round pick on a receiver now. I agree. I think this was the move. I think maybe there will be another receiver somehow brought in. That might even be likely. There are people who are reporting such speculation, but what are we talking about? If that's on day 3, I don't really care. And that has worked out for them, but I'm sort of with the caller's sentiment on the athletes piece, and I'm not sure what a day 3 receiver would really do to move the needle. Be right back. Mike Schopp, WGR.
Busy day for both Buffalo sports teams. Looking to the Sabres first, it was NHL trade deadline day, and the Sabres do make 4 acquisitions. They make 2 separate trades with Winnipeg. The first one is for defensemen Logan Stanley and Luke Schenn, and they send Winnipeg a 2nd and 27, a 4th and 26, Isak Rosen and Jacob Bryson. Then they also go out and add forward Tanner Pearson from Winnipeg for a 7th. Then they also make a deal with the Rangers. Forward Sam Carrick, and they send New York a 3rd and a 6th in 2026. Earlier this afternoon, we did hear from General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen. If you missed any of that, it's on the Odyssey app or our website, WGR550.com. Perhaps, though, the biggest news from the press conference, forward Yuri Kulik is likely done for the season. The team is hopeful he will be ready to return to play and prepare for next year. Kulik, for much of this year, has been dealing with blood clots. And then for the Bills, it's a day of cuts as they've officially announced 4 of them. Cornerbacks Taron Johnson and Dane Jackson, and then wide receiver Curtis Samuel and safety Taylor Rapp. Our own Sal Capaccio has a piece on this up at our website, WGR550.com. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet with you for the extra mile since 1935. I'm Zach Jones for Western New York's Voice of the Fan, WGR.
Thursday, today, yeah, it's Friday.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
We so excited, we gonna have a ball today. Tomorrow is Saturday.
I'm itching inside. My liver's all twisted up. But you know what I did? I took Deborah, went to the liquor store, I loaded up with alcohol, more specifically vodka, whiskey, beer, tequila, more beer, more vodka, more whiskey, and more beer.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Last night, she likes other things. She prefers other things that are not always my cup of tea. She found a movie the other night called Like Mike or Make Me Like Mike. I'm like, oh, what's this? And I'll give you the synopsis of like the first half of the movie. I think if this were true, it would be the most incredible story in the history of the world, of sports, at least. Kid lives in a group home. Maybe he's like 10, 11 years old. Finds some magic shoes. Gets picked at random to play an NBA player one-on-one at halftime. Puts on a show against him. Gets signed to the team. Gets into a game. Immediately beats the San Antonio Spurs with a buzzer beater over David Robinson. And we'll see where it goes from there. That's all. I got roped in. I can't imagine what happens next. What's happening next on this show is very exciting to me. E.J. Radick. One thing, not many things are longer than the Sabres playoff drought, but my personal E.J. Radick drought is longer than the Sabres playoff drought. EJ, we spoke many times at ESPN when I was working weekend nights, and then here when the Sabres were hot, and you had a different schedule, I think, back in those days.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, probably.
Yeah, right. But
well, listen, the drought is over.
The drought is over. I'm so excited. I'm sorry Bulldog is not here for this because he would be just as excited to have you on. Well, I mean, the Sabres drought itself is pretty close to over too, isn't it?
I think so. And I would tell you that I've been bullish on the Buffalo Sabres personnel and their roster really for a couple of years now. And I go back to, I was in Prague last season when the Sabres opened the year up against the Devils. They lost both games, but and it was, obviously the season didn't go as they had hoped. But, I just look at the players they have there, and it's like, with Dahlin and Power and Byram and Samuelson, 4 really good defensemen to start with. And, you know, they have Thompson, they had McLeod, and then they've added Norris, who I wasn't crazy about that deal because Norris has had injury issues and he still has them, but he's playing right now, which is good. Hopefully he stays healthy. He's a good player when he's healthy. I just think they had the players to be good. They had to figure it out, and they just had to come to the rink night after night, like with the mentality that, like, every night is opening night. We're the Buffalo Sabres. We haven't been in the playoffs in 13, 14, 15 years. We need to prove it every night because we're not the Avs or even the Carolina Hurricanes, who have had a good year, good teams every year for the last several years. And I think that's finally kicked in this year, somewhere in December. I saw them against the Rangers a couple months ago before the deadline and talked to Tage Thompson and some of the players and Josh Dolan, and guys have figured it out. So I'm really, really happy for that franchise, for all the good people there that are big-time hockey fans. So I agree. The drought is almost over. It'd be hard-pressed to see them not making it this year.
I think you would agree. I hope I'm not coming off as such a homer or anything like that, but this is such a fun market when they're good. Like,
it is.
You know, I mean, those 06, 07 teams, it was just insane. I didn't think there was another market in the country that compared to the excitement and the enthusiasm that was here in Buffalo, and it has waned and waned. And one thing, too, EJ, not to dwell on the past, I certainly don't want to do that, but you talk about the roster in the last couple of seasons. Of course, during this drought, Sam Reinhart, Jack Eichel, I mean, O'Reilly, stars that, of course, to make matters worse for us, went on to win cups elsewhere. But it hasn't been easy to explain, much as you're saying about recently. It hasn't been easy to explain their failures because they have had high-end talent.
Yes, they have. I mean, like, I go back, and again, we probably don't need to rehash this, but just like the night they got Jack Eichel, or the night they won, they finished second in the lottery, and Tim Murray, who was the manager at that time, just instead of really embracing, like, hey, no matter what happens, we have the second pick. I don't know what the Oilers are going to do, but if they take McDavid, we got Eichel. If they take Eichel, we got McDavid. We got a great player no matter what. And instead, he just railed on about the system. It was almost, it was almost a shot at Jack Eichel. And so right from before he was even selected, it seemed like it wasn't great. Like, if I'm Jack Eichel's family and I'm watching the general manager rail on that night, I'd be like, boy, this guy doesn't even want us. So things have happened. It hasn't worked, but the good news is it's come together. Guys have matured. There's good players there now, and they're playing really well. And I'm really happy for those guys in the room, for the coaches, for the management people, and for most of all for the fans there in Buffalo who, spend their money. Even when the team struggles, they try to come out and watch the team play. So it's going to be, I think, a really great finish, and should be a really fun spring to have the Sabres back in. Because I can remember going back to the Dominic Hasek days and the final in '99, and then those teams you had in '06 and '07, and it's a great market for hockey. We know that.
I'll just add to this before my next question. Going to so many games myself over the years, what changes is it's not always an empty building, but more the people around you are not paying attention to the game. And I'm someone that I'm there to see the game. I don't even want the scoreboard. Yeah. I'm there to watch it. And when they're in the playoffs, it's like everybody around you, it's a coveted ticket, and it's serious stuff. And, I went to see Eichel return a couple years ago. Eichel had a hat trick. All the people around me were just there to scream at him. And go into games against other rivals where so many of the people in the building are rooting for those teams, Toronto, Montreal, Boston.
Yep.
So hopefully that changes at least somewhat here in the coming weeks. With EJ Raddick from NHL Network, I know you were on the desk today. The Sabres picked up 4 players in 3 different trades, depth, experience. Curious for your take on what they did. Not that I think it's massive, but it's maybe interesting. And what you have to say about what the league deadline was like overall. Like, who else maybe had a good day?
Well, I mean, the Sabres added, the most interesting guy is Logan Stanley because he's just 27 years of age. He was a first-round draft pick several years ago. He's a big guy. I mean, he's like
6'7", 6'8", somewhere in that area. He's a big man, and he'll bring some toughness. The thing I wondered about though is like the need was more for a right shot guy. Now they also got Luke Shen, who's now on his 10th team, and Luke is a great guy, and he's like going to be a great depth player and a guy that can jump in and has played in big games, has his name on the Stanley Cup. But I thought, they had that trade for Parayko. He decided he didn't want to waive his no move, which is his right. As, these guys negotiate these no moves. He's totally entitled to do that. And so that didn't work out, unfortunately. They go to, they end up with Logan Stanley. I thought they might try to find a long, lanky right shot guy. At the end, Jarmo Kekalainen comes up with Stanley. We'll see how that works out. For the Sabres, those four top guys are going to be the guys that are going to have to do it on defense, really. Dahlin, Power, Barham, and Samuelsson. But some good pieces, some depth pieces. You never have enough defensemen. People have told me that for years, and it's so true. Mm-hmm. We saw it with the Sabres way back in, I think, in 2006 when they ended up losing to Carolina in the conference final. They ran out of defensemen. I think they were down. They were into their 9th or 10th or 11th defenseman by the end of that cup run, or that playoff run.
They were down five guys for Game 7 of the conference final.
Yeah, I remember they were talking about calling a guy in that they had the rights of a guy in the Czech Republic. They were thinking about calling in, if I remember correctly. But the bottom line is they're playing well. You always hope. You don't want chemistry is such a delicate balance, and they have played well. So hopefully that'll continue to be the case, and we'll see if Logan Stanley is a helpful piece. As for the rest of the league, I mean, there was a couple. It was a different deadline because the rules were a little different this year. There was not the ability to have that double retention, so you couldn't retain on already a team that already retained. So you couldn't get a guy, let's say, at a quarter of the price. So that changed the dynamic for teams. The LTIR rules have been changed too, and so now, unless a player was completely out for the season, like is the case with Tyler Seguin in Dallas, you can't get that LTIR room to add a player and then bring a guy back in the playoffs.
Right.
So that changed things. It was a seller's market all along. Teams that were going to sell decided they were looking for high prices, and for the most part, if they didn't get them, they didn't make the trade. So it changed things. Late in the day, the Avalanche were able to make that deal for Nazem Kadri, and I think they were the best team through the end of the calendar year, the end of the 25 calendar year. The start of this year, January wasn't great. They've come out of the break good, but to think that they have McKinnon as the 1 center, Nelson is the 2C, Kadri is the 3C, and Nick Waugh is the 4C. I mean, I don't know how it gets any better than that through the middle there. And of course, they have Makar. They have their 2 goalies there. They have a number of other pieces. So I think when I look at this deadline, the Colorado Avalanche come out of this. They were the best team points-wise going into the day, and they may just be the best team, period, coming out of the day.
Let's get to the finals and take our chances, right, everybody? With E.J. Radick. So Corey Perry to Tampa. The Sabres are tied with the Lightning in the Atlantic Division. When the Kings were here, we've watched Corey Perry for 20 years. When the Kings were here a month or so ago, longer, there was a play where Perry was in front of the net doing his thing, and maybe there was a goal called back because of goalie interference. And he's always right in the middle of that kind of stuff. And I tweeted something like, it's always Corey Perry. He drives you nuts. Trade for him. And it's the Lightning who do it. Is that a significant move for you?
I wouldn't say it's significant, but I think that Tampa Bay Lightning had a great year. Now, they've lost 4 in a row. They're in a little bit of a slide right now, but I'm not worried about the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're going to figure that out. They're around the edges of their team. When they won those cups in back-to-back years, went to the finals 3 years in a row, they were deep all the way through. Now they are relying on some younger pieces at different parts of their team. So I think they looked at it as an opportunity to get a guy back that has got a ton of experience, that has played in a million big games, they know him, he knows them. And you said it. He's going to do exactly. He's going to be as advertised. I mean, he's not the fastest guy. He never was. And he's not the player that he was when he won the MVP, in 2010. But He's a guy that will come to the front of the net and create trouble and get under your skin and be helpful on your second power play and do little things. And he understands his role very well. And like I said, they know him. So he can be a helpful player. And if he scores one big goal in the playoffs en route to winning a Stanley Cup, it's worth it.
Yeah, right. And it will happen. I'm not sure how far they'll go, but there probably will be a moment. There are so many guys like that over the years that one way or another. The guy this also goes back a long time, but the guy I'm thinking of, it's a while ago, but is Gary Roberts, who, bounced around Toronto and Pittsburgh. And
tough cookie.
We always sort of looked at him as the type of player the Sabres never had. So we'll see what happens this year.
Unique. He was a unique player. He was another guy, power forward, and just bullied his way into the mix in games and had some offensive ability to go with it.
The thing about this Sabres team, you've mentioned it already, EJ, is the defensemen, the top four defensemen are really their strong suit, with due respect to Thompson and a couple of their forwards. But having those four guys play so many minutes, they're so long, and, really good. That's a different thing for the Sabres in almost their entire history. Like, they have the Hasek years. We had the French Connection before that. Just 05-06 out of the gate after the canceled season. They were flying, but they've never really had, they've never sniffed a Norris Trophy in Buffalo. Like, they've never really had a team led by their D-core. And I'm just really curious how far that can take them. It looks like a pretty flat conference in the playoffs, and I don't know, except for maybe Tampa or Carolina, I don't think I'd be afraid of anyone.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. And even, Carolina has not been able to get over that hump in the playoffs. They have a good team, but I don't think they necessarily frighten you to play them in a 7-game series. And I think as well, even Tampa, they're not, Tampa brings it, because they've won. They've got Vasilevsky, they have Hedman, they have Kucherov. They frighten you a little bit more. Maybe not as much as they did 3, 4, 5 years ago, but they're still a really good team. The fact that the Florida Panthers have had injuries and are basically out of the mix this year kind of opens the door for everybody. And the way the Sabres are playing it, as I said, really good down the middle. 4D that really are as good as any group of four in the league. And, Alex Lyon and Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen have played really well. In fact, Alex Lyon is just one of these guys that the last 4 years, and no matter where he's been, he's just gone and played well. So, we'll see how it plays out. I think it'll be, like I said, I just think it'll be a really fun spring for the Sabres no matter what happens. They haven't been in the playoffs in a long time, and to get back in will be fun, and we'll see how healthy they are when the time comes and who they play. And, maybe it'll be one of those springs when they go on a long run. That'll be great news for the Sabres. But like I said, I like the team. I like the players. And, they've kind of figured something out there since early December, and they've really taken off.
And like you said, a few teams, even Rangers, Washington, that we're always seeing in the playoffs, will not be there. So any narrative about a lack of experience here, the Sabres will not be alone in that.
They won't be alone.
Right.
They will not be alone.
This is EJ Radick. You can watch NHL Now and On the Fly today, providing analysis and updates on the day's trades. Plus, EJ can be seen on NHL Tonight, first shift, 4 p.m. Eastern, weekdays throughout the rest of the season. Yes, that happens to be when I'm on with Bulldog, but, there are ways. In modern technology, there are ways.
That's right.
To do
there
both.
are ways. There are ways.
This is really special to me. Thank you. I hope we can do it again during the playoffs.
Well, listen, I'm around. And, now that the drought is over for both you and I and the Sabres, why not do it again?
Why not? Let's not have a new drought. Very good.
We don't need a new drought.
Thanks. Enjoy your weekend, EJ, and the rest of the season.
All right. You too.
Appreciate it. That's EJ Radick, NHL Network. Yeah, he was like one of, I say me, like it isn't Bulldog and me, but even before I knew Bulldog, I knew EJ from working those weekend nights at ESPN Radio. So that was pretty cool. And look, what we're going to do here for the rest of the season is ask each other on the air, real life out there. We're all going to be doing this. Can you trust this team? Is it really there? Is it for real? What has happened? How many games do you need basically to be hot for to convince you The Sabres are at like 35. What is it? 26-5-2. So in 33 games, they have lost 7, 5 of which in regulation. That's insane. And so that seems like enough, but the playoff point is going to be there, and you're going to hear lots of people make it. And even today, that was a big talking point around these trades. What are they going for? They got a cup winner in Schenn. They're going for experience. 3 of the guys they traded are in their 30s. And Stanley, the fourth, is not really young, 28 almost. So experience was big, and that, might mitigate some of the point that you're going to hear a lot, which is that what they haven't done. Thompson and Dahlin, for all their greatness, no playoff appearances, barely a sniff of one in their careers. Like not even big regular season games very often for either guy. I choose to not hold that against them. I mean, not even that, but I'm not interested in it being a big, I'm not expecting it to be necessarily a big problem, once they get in, if they get in, which they almost definitely will, I guess, at this point. And again, like it's partly because how much playoff experience does Montreal have, or Detroit, or maybe it's Ottawa, maybe it's Columbus. Some of these teams, the Islanders, are relatively equal in this way. The Sabres' average age went way up today. When we talked about them in that context, I think they were, when Montreal was on the schedule, what was it, like 3 times in 1 month earlier this year? Looking at the stats, Montreal was the only team in the league younger than the Sabres by average age. And that, I think we took a big jump in that category today with the trades. But yeah, just bring it on. Fans are super into it. The building's alive. The general manager today talked about that too, getting goosebumps in there. And he seems really authentic to me. I was texting with someone else in the organization. I haven't met Kekalainen, but he's a pretty easy listen. A guy who, and Bean has been this way as well, I want to say, where you get a sincerity and they're direct, but there's also a likability, I think. And I get that from the current GM. I haven't gotten that with other guys. I liked Adams for the most part in this area. But, like Botterill or Murray was just abrasive. Like he was interesting. And he could not sit still with that roster. He was interesting in other ways. But Kekalainen seems to know how to do it. And if you missed him earlier today, the press conference went early. And that happens, the deadline, things are pretty fluid. And it was originally mentioned to be 4 o'clock, but they ended up going a half an hour early. So maybe you didn't catch it. We'll have that for you here coming up. Logan Stanley, 6'7", 230 pounds, and Luke Schenn, who's on maybe even his 12th team. EJ said 10. It might even be more than that, but has been everywhere. These are the defensemen the Sabres got from Winnipeg. They end up sending Isak Rosen and Jacob Bryson to the Jets, plus 2 draft picks. No first-round pick ever ended up leaving the building after the Parayko experience. Then Sam Carrick is the forward from the Rangers. He's in his 30s. And Tanner Pearson was the one, as you listen to Kekalainen, he mentions there's one trade that he can't tell us about because it hadn't gone through the proper protocols yet. So that's who that is. That's for a 7th-round pick, 33-year-old winger from the Jets. So 2 separate trades with the Jets. 7 goals in 52 games. Sabres in Nashville tomorrow night. And then Tampa is here Sunday, maybe with Corey Perry. I guess possible that the Jets guys will be a few days, I read, because of visa stuff. So we'll see what the lineup looks like this weekend. All right, Yarmo, after the break. Happy Friday. This is Mike Schopp on WGR.
Was Thursday, today, yeah, it's Friday.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
We so excited. We gonna have a ball today. Tomorrow is Saturday.
I'm itching inside. My liver's all twisted up. But you know what I did? I took Deborah, went to the liquor store. I loaded up with alcohol, more specifically vodka, whiskey, beer, tequila, more beer, more vodka, more whiskey, and more beer.
On WGR, Sports Radio 550.
Looking forward to the weekend. Yesterday was Thursday. Today, yeah, it's Friday.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
We so excited. We gonna have a ball today. Tomorrow is Saturday.
I'm itching inside. My liver's all twisted up. Went to the liquor store. I loaded up with alcohol, more specifically vodka, whiskey, beer, tequila, more beer, more vodka, more whiskey, and more beer.
On WGR, Sports Radio 550.
Since so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go. All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over. It's about time.